This Wednesday, it's MinMax versus Second Wind's community in Trivia Tower. We want you to compete in game trivia to win a game code for Avatar, Frontiers of Pandora, Steam World Build, Super Crazy Rhythm Castle, or you can win an Astro A30 headset. So here's how it works. If you support MinMax or Second Wind on Patreon, you can compete on Wednesday, December 20th at 7 p.m. Central in game trivia. You answer a question correctly in Discord to work your way up Trivia Tower, last person standing wins, and whatever community they're representing wins. We'll be joined by Second Wind's Nick Calandra as our co-host. This will be MinMax's toughest competitor yet because Second Wind, I don't know if you noticed, they're freaking huge. So support us on Patreon and help us take down these Patreon whippersnappers over there at Second Wind. Thanks so much, everybody.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Firelink Podcast, episode number 3 for Tuesday, December 19th, 2023. I'm going to be honest, it was weird saying Tuesday. My name is Marty Sliva, and I, as always, am joined by my wonderful co-host, KC Nwosu, and Nick Calandra, and of course, producer Eric on the ones and twos. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the final podcast of the year. Oh my God, we've done so many. 3.
Ooh.
We've done 3.
Doesn't
plus,
feel like 3. It feels like we did many more this year, actually.
3 plus like 45 in a past life. But yeah, thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. We have a great show for you. We're going to be talking about our favorite games of the year. Given this is the last show of the year, we're going to be talking about our picks for the standouts. It's going to be some games you've heard us talk about before, some games maybe that might surprise you, and then hopefully some stuff you can put on a list and maybe jam over the holiday break. And then I think when we start off too, I mean, obviously the big news of the moment is the Insomniac leaks. And so we're obviously not going to be talking about the leaks themselves, but I feel like we were having like a heated discussion earlier about the sort of what do we talk about when we talk about this kind of stuff. So I feel like we could touch on that without, we're not digging into anything. We're not digging into spoilers. We're not going to be digging into any of that dirt.
Yeah, there is
You
a
just wanted to hear me rant again.
No, I just didn't have. I'm going to be honest. I've had a fever all day, and I feel very sick. I didn't put any other news stories, and so I feel like this is one of those topics I could just be like, "Take it away, Nick," and then I can put my hand on my face, and it's going to be very nice. But before we do that, everyone, as you guys know, thank you so much for supporting us here at Second Wind. Whether you're watching live on YouTube, the VOD, or listening on your favorite podcast service. We really appreciate it, and obviously we appreciate your support over on Patreon. That is a major source of our funding, and there are so many of you over there, and we really appreciate it. Remember, just a little bit goes a long way. $5 gets you into the column tier, where Darren is just writing banger after banger. Just put a new piece up about A24. How A24 is primed to have an incredible couple of years. Partly because of our good friend Hideo Kojima, which is great. And then remember, you can hang out with us on these streams via Super Chats. Obviously, the regular Super Chats through YouTube are greatly appreciated. If you're thinking of doing anything higher than that, think about putting it through PayPal through Streamlabs over here, because that way we get a larger cut of it. So if you're thinking of doing a beefer, a $50 or $100 beefer, think about it over there. And of course, all those super chats right now are going towards our current funding goal of Adventures Nigh Season 4 on location early next year. Plans are being made. Flights are being booked. This is coming hot and heavy. Let me tell you.
Yep. Yeah, we were hoping to have this booked, right before we got fired. So
yeah.
Funny
yeah, it's this is primed to be bigger and better than any of the previous seasons. Which, speaking of, if you've been watching, episode 2 of season 3 will be re-debuting this weekend, which means we're getting ever closer to the brand new 3 episodes at the end of season 3. You're going to want to stick around for that. So thank you guys so much. Welcome, guys. How are you guys doing? How are you feeling at the end of this year?
I think I'm ready for it to be done.
Ready for it to be done?
Yeah, that's
been I mean, content-wise, like, had a really awesome year on The Escapists, despite everything that happened. Like, was really happy with how we were growing over there, and coming over here and getting our second wind, as you might call it, has been really, really gratifying to see. So, actually, we just got our incorporation papers back today. So we are officially a company now, which is really exciting because I can get all of that tax information updated and all this money away from my social security number, so the IRS won't kill me.
It's like the ring. Like,
Yeah.
if you touch that bank account, then you're going to be cursed to die in 7 days.
But yeah, I don't know. I'm just looking forward to kind of starting fresh. I feel like I've been like in this like cycle for the last 5 months where I kind of just work, and then I'm too tired to do anything because of stress. And like now that we're incorporated and we were kind of like getting moving, like I could feel the stress going away, but now I just need to, start taking care of my house and myself again.
In the 80s, they used to do a lot of drugs to counteract that.
Yeah.
So that's
So it's
that's
an
what
option.
I've seen from
Lots of
various
beer.
films and books. Casey, how are you?
Yeah, like looking back on it, this 2023 may have just been like a banner year for me in general. Like for one, like I traveled more often this year than probably any other year I've been alive. Probably definitely way more than like the last 5 years I've been alive. Like I left the whole country for the first time in like a really long time
Hell yeah.
this year. And like
Same.
I can barely remember it because that was like all the way back in the freaking
Same.
the spring and stuff.
I keep forgetting
But,
I went to Iceland this year before it
yeah, like-
exploded again.
World.
But like on top of that, like just like big life stuff happening, right? Like some not great, but other stuff like the planning of the wedding, like looking for venues and whatnot. Like I'm really excited about that sort of stuff. And then like basically what a great conclusion to the year to kind of leapfrog into this whole new media company thing. Like as crazy as it's been, like it is also equally exciting. Like I still very much like everything that we get to do here. And I'm just really excited. Like I don't really know any other way to put it. Like I'm just super excited. So like yeah, everything's not perfect, but like whenever is it? But like for me personally, I can say like a lot of good has happened this year to me and mine, and like it's been dope.
Yeah.
Also
That's,
video games.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
It's the first time I felt optimistic about being in games media for quite a while. As much as I loved Escapist, like definitely with everything going on and being under that kind of corporate structure, lots of uneasiness, lots of not knowing, if you are going to have a job tomorrow kind of thing. And for like the very first time in my entire career, like I feel secure and like I'm not stressing about second win being successful or not, because I think we're doing really well and excited, at the support. And I mean, just we've been calling out like over the last week, like, hey, like we're hitting that dip on Patreon for the first month, and our community's showing up and like stop that dip from happening, which is really, really good because
Filled
usually,
in the dip.
Yep. But yeah, it's like I don't know, just weirdly enough, getting fired kind of felt like it took like a huge boulder off my shoulders.
We should, if you ever get stressed again, we'll just fire you again.
Okay, that sounds good.
We'll have a recurring calendar invite.
I'll just start third wind.
There you go. I'm also not worried about our future because of amazing folks like Darwin's Dummy with a $5 dono for Marty's fever meds. What an Iron Man being here today. Some people say the firefighters are the heroes. Some people say paramedics are the heroes. Some people say the troops are the heroes. I disagree. I think it is a man who's kind of being a baby about being sick, really pulling it together for a nice 90-minute podcast right before Christmas. I think we know there's one true hero today.
We're all cheering you on, Marty.
Thank you. This is incredible. This feels like the end of an anime arc. Like this feels like I'm getting the spirit.
I thought you meant having a fever is incredible.
Yeah, having
it feels like the end of an anime arc.
Yeah, I'm experiencing ego death, and I'm getting ready to fight the shadow monster that appears in my room at night. Speaking of Shadow Novus, a $5 dono. Thank you so much. Also, suffering from a fever. Feel better, Marty. Thank you so much, Shadow Novus. Same to you. We got this. Also, you'll probably cover it, but what games are y'all looking forward to in 2024? I feel like we want to table this to maybe the first episode of the year. How does that sound? We can do a more comprehensive. I want to do a big dive in one thing about not working with the Escapists is we would put together a annual comprehensive list of like 40 big indies we're excited for. And that was like the incredible Michael Kripe and Damien co-wrote those the last few years. We don't have that, even though like half those games still haven't come out. So we could just go to last. Honestly, we could go to like 2 or 3 years ago, and some of those games still haven't come out. Cough, Silk Song, cough. But I want to put together a big old list of indies I'm excited for. Go through my wish list. I feel like every day I find a new one. A lot of good games coming out. Nick, I've been enjoying that Paper Mario game you recommended me.
Hey,
Yeah, it's been pretty good. It's one of the best non-Paper Mario games. I'll talk about it when we talk about stuff later.
Yeah, I saw a GIF of that on Twitter, and then I was like, "Oh, it's out now! Oh, they sent me a review request form for it. Oh, I should get that."
Yeah, and you knew it was a Marty game, so I appreciate that. And then Sin Vendetta with a $10 dono. Thank you so much, Sin Vendetta. Okay, it's episode 3 of the Firelink podcast, and I feel like we need an intro that has the Firelink shrine music or something with that vibe, and also the outro music should be Gwyn's piano music. Sin Vendetta, that sounds like an incredible idea that gets us demonetized.
That's also an incredible idea where people are already like, "This isn't a Dark Souls podcast," and we're like, "Yeah, we know."
What did you expect?
Oh, I expected exactly that, and I can already go. I always say, go to the first episode. Within the first 5 minutes, we explain the name.
There was
But
like
we've also
roasted.
talked about Soul stuff in every podcast, so like it counts.
It counts.
yeah, I feel like a week's not going to go by where we don't talk about a soul or the
And,
soul in general.
I also totally intended to have a craft beer review for the first episode, and then I forgot. And then I forgot last week, and then I forgot this week too.
That's on brand.
I
The
won't
people
forget
love
next
that.
week. I won't forget next week
That's
because we
what
won't be
People
here next
hope we
week.
do.
So
We
God
won't be here next week.
There's I was going to try to segue, but the neurons aren't firing. Do you guys want to talk about this Insomniac thing for a little bit? Just Nick, you can vent. You get your demons out.
Yeah, Nick, let the people know what you want them to know.
Yeah,
I don't have any vent. I'm just explaining the role of journalism in it. Okay, so Insomniac Games, ransom group hacked them, stole their information, including like their games lineup for the next decade, footage of stuff. Like, I don't want to get too much into specifics because someone's gonna clip this and be like, "Oh, you said don't talk about the leaks, but then you talked about it." But in general, like, they basically stole their information, including personal social security numbers, passports, email, like any data they could get their hands on.
Doxed all the employees.
Yeah, doxed all the employees, stole all their like in progress footage of things, upcoming lineups of things, and then tried to ransom Sony for it for $2 million. Sony said no, so they released that information. And now they're putting it basically on the black market and auctioning it off to the highest bidder, kind of bullshit. So yeah, that is the Insomniac leak, and as games media traditionally tends to do with these leaks or hacks or whatever you're gonna call it, because people are playing semantics game today. The lead of the story has become more about the games being leaked over, I don't know, a criminal ransom hacker group going after game companies and doing this over and over again. And people are like, well, nobody yelled about GTA 5. Like, developers were screaming about GTA 5 or GTA 6 because that guy went to jail. He literally went to jail. And he just a few weeks ago, he's like, yeah, when I get out, I'm going to do it again. Like, why? Okay.
Yeah, because these a-holes are not learning any lessons.
Yeah, it's baffling that this keeps happening, and it feels like they always get caught.
All the big ones that have come out recently, news has followed eventually that the person was found and caught.
Yeah. But it, like, I don't know. My first thought on this is it fucking sucks. It fucking sucks. I know people at Insomniac. I'm friends with people at Insomniac. It fucking sucks. It sucks for this to happen at any time of the year. It fucking sucks to happen right, I'm assuming, when they were getting ready for the holiday break, which for a lot of those people is not going to be a holiday break anymore. That is not going to be time off. It fucking sucks that you spend years and years of your life working on something and it gets shown off in an absolute unfinished state. It's like you can bang on about how it's like, oh, fuck CEOs, fuck C-suite people and everything. And I kind of agree with that. This doesn't just impact them. This impacts like every single developer, writer, QA person there. And that like fucking sucks. And I feel terrible for them as human beings, which I feel like there needs to be a little more empathy in certain parts.
Like the part that really annoyed me today and why I got on Twitter about it was like a lot of people are like moral grandstanding over oh, it's a corporation, who cares, like it's just their marketing plans, get rid of who cares if that leaks. And like personally, like I don't really care that marketing plans leaked. I totally get it from the developer side, right? I'd be super fucking pissed if Adventures Nigh season 4 leaked after we filmed it and somebody just released all that footage online before we were done with it. Totally get that. Totally empathize with that. From a journalist perspective, like that stuff's out in the wild. It's kind of fair game, but it's also like like I said, the lead of the story has become those leaks and not, or the stolen information. And I'm saying leaks because everybody's yelling leak all day when it's actually hacking and stolen information. It's
Going
not.
on at your house, people are just screaming leaks.
Yeah.
You gotta get Casey's plumber in
No,
there.
no, please, no more leaks. I've already had to fix 2 holes in my ceiling this year. But like I've got a bunch of people like that's not the role of journalism. Like it's their job to report on these is leaks and everything like that. And I'm like, sure, but also like if you're not putting the lead of the story, then ethically like you're basically just playing into the hype machine of hyping up these games that don't exist yet and everything. So like there's not a moral leg to stand on if like you call yourself a journalist and you are not reporting the actual story, which is a group of criminals stole and ransomed Insomniac's personal information, blackmailed them, and then leaked their information on the internet. Like
Like
that's
I understand how bad that sounds, but
Mhm.
like from the perspective of like a newsie, like that information once once it exists, and if it's of interest to your viewership, like you do kind of have to be like, all right, well, yeah, this is part of like this is what happened. And
well,
if you do color that with the added thing of like, well, this happened, here's the information, but also it was bad that this happened, then that's you putting editorialization on it. And that's kind of not what journalists are supposed to do. But like,
well, in this case,
yeah,
in
like
this
this
case, you
just
would
feels,
report on it.
yeah.
Like, let's put IGN out an example right now. They've got like 7 or 8 different stories up today, I think, on highlighting all the leaks or all the stolen information, whatever you want to call it. Hardly anything on their front page that I can find about like stolen information or anything like that. It's not like in context of the situation. So, ethically, like I don't know, to me and to really any seasoned journalist is going to tell you like there's a big difference in like remember I don't remember what game it was, but like I think maybe a Mortal Kombat game or whatever, but basically somebody had their computer open, or I think it was Horizon, a game. They had their computer open on a plane and somebody behind them saw PDF documents of Horizon Zero Dawn and screenshotted like kind of like you're out in the public, you're not really stealing that information, like it's out there for you to find it, right? And like there's a big difference in that than to me than a ransom group hacking Sony, blackmailing them, ransoming off that information, and then
I mean,
reporting in detail like on those leaked contexts. Like ethically, you don't have an obligation to tell people about all these leaked games and show that footage and all that stuff. Your ethical responsibility as a journalist is to tell people what happened, and then like the leaked contents of a video game are not of public importance or of public interest. They're not of public importance.
Well, but here's the truth: is none of this is because we're in games media, right? So like, there's nothing
Well,
actually important.
the heck is important.
Well, yeah, that part is yes, but
Yeah.
like the information after that to the reader base, because honestly, you could make the argument, and this is me playing a little bit of devil's advocate here. This is not how I personally feel, but you could make the argument that the stuff about the company being hacked is not important to the reader base. Like the general public who logs in and wants to find out about video games from IGN don't necessarily care about like the behind the scenes corporate stuff. So if you tell them that like this company had a bunch of employees get their information hacked and leaked, and that's it, they're like, all right, well, what does this have to do with me? But then the stuff about Wolverine exclusive and blah blah blah, like all that stuff, that's what they would actually tune in and click on. So like you do have to put in that sort of context. It's just that this particular story is really shitty because of the nature of which the information was gotten. So like if you let's abstract it even further, right? Let's say someone at like a private company that has all sorts of internal documents that like general news journalism would be interested in should that stuff be made available, like politics and whatnot, right? Some intern gets gets real upset and like just throws a bunch of confidential documents out of the window of the building. Journalists are just around, they see that info, they're going to report on it, right? But
Yeah.
let's say there's a terrorist attack and that building gets blown up and people die, and the same documents get flung to the winds and journalists see it. If they would report on that, that seems way more evil than the other option. But it's just the context in which you got it. Like the job hasn't changed. It's just the context around it.
Yeah, I mean that's literally you've made my point basically. It's like the context of the situation is that it is not like a general oops, I accidentally published this leak. This was stolen, ransom, blackmail, and people reporting on it. Like, again, can't stop anybody reporting on it, and I'm not saying you shouldn't report on those leaks.
Yeah,
I think it's up
true
to
journalism is agnostic in terms of whether you should or shouldn't, right? Like true
yeah.
journalism is
Well,
like it's my job to get this information to the people, and if you're gonna be gung ho about it, that's what they do, and you might sometimes be the bad guy for
well,
doing that.
yeah. Well, that's the internal fight in games media specifically. Is like it's 90% access journalism. I think a lot of people have a hard time admitting that work in
Mm,
games media.
mhm.
Like it's 90% rehashing press releases, opinions on games, columns, whatever you want to call it, reviews of products. That's what 90% of games media is. Every once in a while, there's an investigative journalism deep dive report, interviews with developers telling their stories. Like that's 10% of what games journalism is. So, and developers, like I'm sorry to say, like developers have gotten so close to journalists that real journalists that they think like, oh, you should have our best interests at heart at all times. Like, no, we're here to tell a story.
Mm.
And but like this specific case is like one that's like really weird to navigate because the information was stolen, ransomware, blackmail, all that
Yeah, like
stuff.
all of that is super
Do
shitty.
do you as a journalist, and this is like a question we would ask ourselves in like comm law, if I was back in school right now in comm law and
Yeah,
ethics, like would you personally report on that information? Me, I would basically tell the story of here's what happened, here's the hacking, Sony's plans for the next 10 years were leaked. That's it. Like, and I'm not going to go into specifics of what was leaked, but telling you what that leak happened, that's fine. But going into like the specifics of where to find everything or showcasing the gameplay footage, which people have done, like that's beyond the scope of like what you needed to actually report for this story to inform people of what's going on.
and that's a choice, right?
It's
Like
well, and
you
yeah,
could choose to do that because that's you kind of picking a side in the narrative of the story as opposed to just
no, that's
giving
not
all the
picking.
information.
That's
You
not.
know,
That's not.
let's be real about it. Like you are picking a side. You're saying that you believe that what happened was wrong, and therefore you're not going to participate in the dissemination of the information that was gotten by
Yes.
ill ways, right? So that's you taking a moral stand.
Well, that's a moral. Is a moral stance. That's not like on the side of the developers or you as a journalist deciding ethically this information is not something that was given to me. It was stolen. It wasn't sent to me personally or anything like that as a
Mhm.
credible source. Like I think there's a if like journalism so fallen so far by the wayside that like we use Twitter as a credible source of information of random X users said anything. So like I don't think anybody really truly knows what journalism is supposed to be anymore. I have my idea of what it's supposed to be. And like people are free to disagree with me on that. That's fine.
Mhm.
But like just don't moral grandstand over like, oh, I'm championing the developers. I'm all the developers. Oh, but also this league is exciting and I want to promote the shit out of this for my own gain and, fuck what they think about it. And then if they call me out on that after I've spent, 3 years on Twitter yelling about the Game Awards and promoting their well-being and everything. And then,
Yeah, like
like
that.
that's where
I get that.
that's where access journalism gets in this weird fucking morally gray ground that a lot of people just can't figure out what they want to actually do.
And like, and again, I want to like, I'm not passing judgment on one way or the other.
Yeah.
Like your version of like how you report this, I believe that's important. But then the other half of that, for example, Kotaku a while back, like they kind of made it their thing that they don't deal in access journalism, right? Like they don't accept review code for anything or early access. They would just report on the stuff as they get it. And that kind of freed them up because they didn't have this sort of cozy relationship with devs like other outlets have. So that when stuff like this did happen, they would just rack up, public perception and interest because they'll report on the leaks and like they don't feel icky about it because they haven't made those connections. And like, and
Yeah.
they look at it from the opposite viewpoint. We're like, well, we are true journalists, right? Like we just give the information regardless of how it gets disseminated to us and then the people, because that's what the people want.
Yeah.
So like, I think it's fine that both exist. But like the actual crime is shitty. Like I don't want to pretend that like this is something that people should be doing.
There's two separate things. There's just the crime, and then people how
and then like just
you
how
decide.
how the media is going to deal with like the information that comes from it. Like sure, like it's a super interesting conversation for sure.
Yeah,
It's funny. The 12 years I've been doing this professionally, I've never considered myself a journalist.
yeah.
I've never. I don't think I've ever done any journalism. I mean, I've done like making of documentaries. I guess that's had like spin-off things. I've had like I helped reveal Kojima's new studio when he opened. But that's like that was like soft gloves. That was like little mitten journalism.
Yeah, that's
So, I never
like when
considered
you
myself.
Well, and that's why like so many people get mad about games media all the time. Like you don't even know what you're mad about because games media really doesn't exist outside
Well, the
of
term
it.
doesn't exist. Like you use the term a lot, but
Yeah.
I think like the term you use it a lot.
Sorry,
I
games
feel like
media.
it's a
I
weird.
meant games media exists. I'm talking more about like
No,
specific
but like you
journalists.
use that term as like it feels like a catch-all of like if you work at IGN, if you work at The Escapist, if you work at a mom and pop blog, if you work at Second Wind, if you are a YouTube essayist, like.
Well, I call ourselves more commentary and critics over journalists here, and that's why like
Well, that's no. I'm talking about games media.
Yeah, well, games games media encapsulates, I think, everything that is critique, reviews, journal, like that kind of investigative reporting or whatever. But I think like true journalists is somebody like Jason Schreier, for example. Like the only time he ever writes anything is basically when it's a report on something. Whether people in chat like him or not doesn't matter to me because I don't really care for him either. But like Steven Totillo, his reports on Axios are journalism all the time. It's always involves sources and involves telling news, telling a story, an interview, something, right? But like like even on Escapist, like us rehashing news press releases, it's not really journalism.
But it's the same thing. What we've ever done. I've never done a piece of journalism in my
Right,
career, so I never say I'm a journalist.
Yeah,
So
I know. That's my point though. Is like a lot of people that have never done actual journalism
do they consider themselves journalists? I feel like
it's
these
in
are
all their
labels.
it's in all their profiles.
I want to push back a little bit because like like Nick you've had that distinction for like a really really long time, and like part of it is true that like like enthusiast press or like sector journalism, as someone in chat brought it up, like it's very much tied to an industry and it's not the same thing as like hard news, which is generally more associated with what you would call quote unquote journalism. But like there's a lot of journalism crossover in games media. Like games media is not inherently journalistic, but there is crossover. And like Marty, you said you've never considered yourself a journalist, but you have talked to human beings, you have told their stories to an audience. That counts. Like that does count as journalism.
Yeah, I mean that's doing documentaries or interviews or anything.
Yeah,
like that
exactly. Like that sort of
journalism.
thing.
I'm not
is
saying they
like,
don't ever
yes,
do.
the storytelling of like real people, even if it's not hard news, like it's news to someone, that does count as journalism. So
yeah, I'm not saying it's not. I never said it wasn't journalism. I was saying people that a lot of people consider themselves journalists, but don't actually
do any journalism.
Yeah, right. And like don't
because
practice.
it's close enough that folks can like I feel like you might have said this before even Nick, but like I feel like anyone who amounts a certain number of followers and like is a content creator might need to like take an like they need to be forced to take like a media ethics class,
media literacy, media ethics class.
like there's very important information that you learn in those classes that let you know like, oh, this is a little shaky, or like, no, this is perfectly fine. Like fair use, for example, is a thing that YouTubers cry about all the time. And like there are rules that protect you in regards to what you can and can't use. And like they'll make an argument that just doesn't make any sense because they don't know any better.
Yeah, that's
that's where you learn that stuff.
Yeah, there was that big Instagram influencer that just went viral a couple weeks ago because it's like, here's a whole video on how I basically take people's content, repurpose it for my own game.
Right, yeah.
And Twitter was like, you're literally just stealing their content. And the guy's like, no, I'm not. It's fine. It's like, you taking a video, changing the size of the video, and putting another video below it that's also not your content.
Fair use is like muttering out a spell in the middle of a battle. If you say fair use, you have a fair use barrier.
Well, and that's the same thing with people that like that's not the role of journalism, is basically that same kind of spell. Is like you couldn't even like some of the people that were coming to my feed today and trying to compare reporting on Watergate versus the reporting on a video game leak, and I'm like, do you even know what you're saying? like
it's ridiculous.
There's a big difference in public importance versus public interest. That's why they call it access journalism, because people are interested in having access to that.
There you go. You learned something, chat. You didn't think you learned something from 3 idiots, did you?
I mean, that's not the official. That's not the official. That's not the official definition, but you know.
Listen, I can wash my hands clean of this because I just say I never took a journalism. I was a creative writing major, so if you want me to make up rules of writing, I gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, com law and like media ethics courses for me were like super, like I didn't learn a whole lot going to get a degree in multimedia journalism, and I never throw around that I have a degree in multimedia journalism and talking to people, because like the degree means nothing unless you walk the talk, you know.
Yeah, you have to do it. Like,
yeah,
like I had a degree and did not work in this industry for several years. Like, it doesn't
also
mean
when
shit.
You start getting to your like, if you're like, I got a degree 10 years ago, I'm like, well,
fuck cares? Let's you have something. I had a guy doing that to me today, and I'm like looking through his videos, like, when's the last time you actually did a story? I'm like, I don't give a fuck who you work for, but like, show me your actual credentials and stories, and then I'll respect you as a journalist. But yeah, like there's so many. I just like just with social media and everything. Like, god damn, like I cannot believe like media literacy is not part of like your elementary curriculum when you are on social media by the time you're like 3, and just knowing how to
have to be nowadays.
It should have been a decade ago, because people don't know how to source their information. They don't know copyright. They don't know fair use. They don't know any of that stuff. And then they constantly try to school you about how this stuff works. And I'm like, you're from a different age, man. So I don't know. It's always, yeah, like this, like leaks have been fought about over games forever. I think what's happening.
That plain one, by the way, was Black Flag. There was just a guy building a PowerPoint on his laptop on a plane, and a guy behind him was like,
I mean, like that's, you know, if you're working on a project like that, maybe that's a little bit of negligence, you know, having that open on an airplane like that.
I mean, it is also an invasion of privacy. Like, both things can be wrong.
Yeah, I mean, like you know, taking screenshots of somebody else's phone, that's definitely.
No, if you're on a dark airplane and you have an illuminated laptop that you're able to clearly see the screen of, no matter when you get up and walk, like you got to take a little bit of that in your own. I do,
but that's
little creepies. Like I do little creepies with my laptop on a plane. I'll be like, it's like, I don't know if you guys call them creepies, but I do them creepies.
Like, because I get the perspective. Like, this guy's on a flight, clearly probably for work. He probably has to present something on that PowerPoint. He's like working. Like, the dude is like, I need to get this done. But like, does that change the fact that he has a job to do, and when he lands, he's not going to be able to get any?
Don't they have those things where like you can only see the screen from head on
in first class?
I'm not saying that. Like, I understand the situation he was in, right? It's a desperation move to like freaking finish a PowerPoint on a plane. Like,
yeah, but
his back was against the wall. I feel like
I have a theory. You are going to become a time traveler, and that was you.
Yeah. Why are you defending this one so hard, you simp?
Listen, maybe he had a really tough day. Maybe he got to the airport late, had to run, and he wasn't able to get a cup of coffee beforehand.
My eyes have been opened. This shit is hard.
I don't even like when the person sitting next to me tries to look at what game I'm playing on a plane. I'm like, this is mine. Don't look at me.
That's why I just do big
mind your
pornos.
business. Whatever happened to minding your business?
You gotta do pornos, and you got to do them loudly, and then you sort of carve out your space. No one wants to mess with you.
Nobody. Yeah, don't. Casey, whenever you're on a plane next, do not let somebody see that you're playing Less from Beyond.
Playing what?
Less from Beyond. It's a code.
I don't even know what that is.
So we have in like all the Steam codes that people gave us. There's like a couple codes in there for those games. And I've been giving, like, I gave my friend a free, like, one of our codes for Dredge because he really wanted to try it. And so, as a joke, I was like, oh, hey, here's another exciting code for you. And I didn't tell him what it was. And then he put it in the Steam account. He's like, how do I hide this? How do I get rid of this?
My mom's gonna see.
Like, it's tied to you forever.
So he hid it from his account. But if you ever search for any game that starts with L, because he likes his Lego games, there's Less from Beyond right there.
That's pretty funny.
Traveler's Tales should make Lego Lust from Beyond. Think about that. All those bricks
no.
falling apart. What do you mean all that? No, none of us know what Lust from Beyond even is.
Like it sounds like a porn game.
Yeah,
was
it
like next
absolutely
point,
is.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
it
so-
absolutely is. It's like demon porn. Yeah, I don't know.
That's like the worst kind of porn.
Listen, after the whole orc massage thing, I had to like make sure all my filters were set correctly on Steam, so I didn't see those anymore.
Y'all prudes. Y'all gaming prudes. You know who's not a gaming prude? Harry Sun 94. Because Harry Sun 94 gave us $5 Australian. That's why Harry Sun's not a gaming prude. Thank you so much, Harry Sun. Early 2024, so damn stacked. Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth, Yakuza 8, Tekken 8, P3 Reload, Apollo Justice Trilogy, plus all the indies. Also, have a great holiday, fellas. Same to
Thank
you, Harry
you.
Sun. Yeah, all those games come out in like the first 2 months. It's fucking nutso. Like we're hitting the ground running.
The 2023 leftovers. I'm excited.
And it's just a lot of there's like beefsters. There's like 3 beefsters: Final Fantasy, Persona, and Yakuza. Like those are hefty.
Jeez.
Tekken 8 too. Like
Tekken 8,
like
that's gonna be a
everything I
good
keep hearing about Tekken 8. Like they put a lot into that game. Like they are.
Yeah. But
Fighting games are
Yakuza,
back.
Final Fantasy, and Persona 3 Reload, that's like 500 hours of RPG right there in the first month.
That's a lot of
That's
stuff.
insane.
I'm really excited. I'm really excited for Final Fantasy. I don't know if I've said that to you guys. I'm really excited.
That's the first time hearing it.
I thought you just became a fan of that series like this week.
I'm worried about that flower girl. I hope she makes it out all right. Because she seems very nice and she shouldn't have anything bad happen.
I'm sure glad I never played Final Fantasy 7 and avoided all the spoilers until Marty.
There's no way you could have avoided that.
I
That
avoided the Red Wedding.
That's
for
not the same thing.
3 years.
That's not
Yeah,
the
Okay,
same
I
thing.
know. I've heard about this character death more times than I can count.
Like what's the statute of limitations? Like I still tiptoe around The Last of Us Part 2.
A bunch of us are experiencing Final Fantasy 7 for the first time, so get bent.
That's
The
I'm
Last of Us
gonna be
Part 2
honest.
makes
I
sense.
respect that response more than anything. That would be get bent. Hell yeah, absolutely agree with that one. Thank you so much, Harry Son, and then Gerard, $20 dono. Thank you so much, Gerard. First time catching any content from you guys live. Been loving everything you've been making since I started watching last year, and ZP since 07. Oh my god, that's OG ZP. OG ZP. I don't know what that means, but I like the way it sounded on my tongue. And so it was a no-brainer to support you guys here. Gerard, thank you so much.
Thank
it is
you.
great. It is equally great to see so many familiar faces to the podcasts and to the streams, and also to so many new people who are like, "Oh my god, you guys do make pretty good stuff." I'm like, thank you.
We got like an average of like 500 to 700 concurrent viewers on every episode of Firelink, so glad you guys are enjoying.
It's all
I did
downhill
not know
from
that.
here. All down here. Are you gonna get real? Are you gonna panic, Casey?
I'm nervous now.
Oh no!
Yeah.
What are you doing with my hand? What do I do with my hands? Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And then with Beast March, speaking of familiar faces, $10 dono. Thank you so much, Beast March. Here's a small dono as a way of saying thanks for all the great content and rising from the ashes after Nick and all got unfairly canned. Hope Second Wind has a great 2024. Beast March, thank you so much. We have an amazing plan already.
Thank you.
We're very excited. Not just Adventures Not. More. There's things big. There's things small. There's gonna be more streams, more edited videos. You're gonna see Casey's first edited video in the near future. Before the bell tolls.
Intriguing.
I don't know what the bell is and what it tolls.
We've had some we've already had some people leave the Patreon for too many notifications. I'm like, you guys are paying us a lot of money. You're gonna get a lot of content for it. So
Don't
sorry.
you guys want these? This is what you're paying for.
Too much value for my
What you're
money.
paying for? Yeah, too much value for my $5 a month I gave you.
The strength of the dollar keeps rising. I can't handle it. And Harrison, thank you so much. Another $2 Australian. Also, please fix the Firelink logo on the bottom right.
What's wrong? What's wrong with the logo on the bottom
What's
right?
the logo?
It's fat right now.
Fat Link, am I right? Is there
Oh.
ever a game where Link's fat?
That Majora's Mask must have a fat Link version, right?
Got a Goron. He's got a
Yeah, the
Goron
Goron's
hat.
pretty heavy set.
Yeah, but that's like
doesn't count for you?
sturdy. It's like stout. That's one of those
Sturdy.
guys where it's like, oh, he's got crazy strong. Like
He's just one of those strong men.
like Andre the Giant. Stephen Brown, welcome to the tip jar. Thank you so much, Jess Brown. Chaotic Archon, $5 Australian. Merry Christmas, you filthy animals. Seeing what you guys have achieved this year is inspiring. Stay safe over the holidays. Much love from Australia. Sometimes I forget that in Australia, already tomorrow.
Oh yeah,
Crazy.
that's true.
Think about the stuff they know that we don't know yet. Do you guys
Yeah,
ever think about
pain
how
and
Australia
suffering.
didn't stop 9/11? How they were already on 9/12 and they didn't say a goddamn thing.
They they tried to tell us, but it was already the next day.
Yeah, I think about that a lot. Nick doesn't seem like he thinks about that. Nick's like, I want to talk about journalism again. What are we doing? Just to clarify, I don't blame Australia for 9/11.
just to make that clear.
Just to clarify, Hugh Jackman, you're fine.
Taking all my notes for where we need HR.
DMB Land with a $5 dono. Thank you so much. Didn't this hack reveal that Sony wanted to raise the prices of games to $80 to $100 by 2027? Not defending hacks, but this is stuff we should know about. There is information in there that there's like a argument that could be made that this should be public information. However, planning documents, we probably have a document somewhere that says $10,000 a month Patreon member ?
Yeah.
And like that doesn't mean you're gonna see that. I think we said similar things with the Microsoft. Well, granted they leaked themselves, but earlier in the year where we were like, when they were like, should we buy Nintendo? I'm like, well, yeah, of course he wants to buy Nintendo. Like,
yeah, of course Sony's gonna say we want to charge $80 to $100 for our games because they're not thinking about like the average consumer. They're thinking about their shareholders and bottom line. But then turns out, well, I don't know. Gamers are kind of weird. They bought the day before, so maybe we would pay $80 to $100 for a game. So who the fuck knows? But I won't pay $80 to $100 for it.
Only dopes like you bought the day before.
I returned it while I was on stream.
I conged.
I saved multiple people from buying it.
Damn.
I did a good thing.
You're telling me there were people who tuned into the stream that you told them to go watch and were like, maybe I should buy this game. I'll wait till Nick tells me otherwise.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, wanted to see if it had got the Nick and Frost, the old Frosty Nick seal of approval.
All right.
Frost was driving me nuts at that stream. He's like, this game doesn't look so bad. I was like, oh, Frost, stop it. Stop you. Don't you start.
Frost
Don't you
is
start.
A voice
I will
of reason.
void the shit out of him.
We were on the same team for Gollum of the hyperbole. And this, you see this every
Gollum's
time.
An actual game. I could shut out the day before.
There. But again, the hyperbole in every game this year has just been constant hyperbole. Forspoken's the worst game ever made. Fucking Gollum's the worst game ever made. Rocket City's the worst game ever made.
The day before isn't even a game. There's nothing to do.
Some people have said that about Suika, and look at Suika Soar.
There's a core loop to that game. The day before is not even has a loop.
Doesn't have any fruit.
I thought its loop was just boring and bad.
There's no loop. You can't even find the loot that you need to return to get fucking vision.
Are we saying loop or loot?
Loop.
We're saying
this
both
same
those
thing.
Words in rapid succession.
Loop it to. Yeah, that game. That was not even a game. That was full of that. No.
Yeah.
If that counts as a game, then I can develop that in 2 seconds on Unreal Engine and sell it.
Isn't there a game called I Am Bread, which is literally like a slice of bread or something?
Yeah, it's a game. It's
like
a physics
platformer. You don't
just
exist as you're a sentient slice of bread. You're not just like a regular
you
slice
just spawn as a slice of bread and look at it.
Yeah, I Am Bread is not the game I was thinking of. But there's another game which is a clear like a mobile cash-in type thing where like you don't really do anything other than buy the game. Like stuff like this has existed before.
Does it have a good sense of place? Because that's all I want in a game is a good sense of place. Give me money
how
to feel
are
like
the vistas?
How are the vistas in my slice of bread? I want to see over the counter and see as far as the end table. Will Cooling with a £5 dono. Thank you so much, Will. Journalism is broader than just reporting. Columnists features critics. They might not be reporters, but they're still opinion journalists and should act ethically. I agree. I think.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you publish something on the internet, you should probably be ethical about it.
Yeah, everyone should just also be a little bit better. Everyone on the internet a little meaner than they should be. I feel like everyone on the internet who talks, they talk a level of shit that if you wouldn't say it to someone's face, you shouldn't be talking like that on the internet. Just thought. Bitches.
Marty will say that to your face.
Yes.
I will. I will. I would do that. James Morgan. $5 dono. Thank you so much, James. Stealing game info is bad, but stealing employee info is much worse. That's social security numbers, addresses, phone numbers. Completely agree. That's passports and photos. That's personal identification. That's the information of spouses and children, healthcare information. It's awful. It's terrible. People don't, they don't deserve that.
Yeah,
no one deserves it. They
and like the people who were defending, like, oh, don't like simp for a corporation. Like, no, those are human beings. like that part of the attack is affecting human lives, not some company's bottom line. So like,
if
it wasn't the fucking Sony CEO that got leaked, and if it did, that's still not good. Like, it was the people making the damn games that you supposedly enjoy getting leaked.
No one hurts Big Jim Ryan. Big Mountain Jim Ryan. Are you guys gonna miss Jim Ryan?
No. I don't think he should have got that job in the first place.
1 versus 2, someone who's gonna miss him. That's me.
I'm mostly, like, obviously big tangent, but I'm super curious, like, if it was his plans for Sony to go down this huge service route, or if it's Herman Hulse.
Herman, who was the head of Guerrilla Games, the Horizon developer, who is now the head of Sony's PlayStation Studios worldwide. Worldwide.
I mean, the book would stop with Jim Ryan on that. Like, he would be the one who would say.
Yeah, I'm mostly just curious, like, how much involvement Herman has in that, or if he's the one, like, finally saying, like, no, now that Jim's gone, let's get these projects out of here.
You want to get in Herman's head, don't you?
What?
Little Herman's head joke. You remember Herman's head? No, Casey?
No,
I was looking at you because you're a fellow old chat. One person in chat remembers Herman's head.
I don't
and that person right now is hooting, hollering. They're having a great time right now on a Tuesday evening. Do you think, Tangent, do you think Naughty Dog canceling the Last of Us multiplayer game is, do you think that is a sign of things to come for those other 9 or whatever unannounced multiplayer games that they've released?
100%.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if they can't get The Last of Us right, like, Factions had a model that a pretty niche community enjoyed, but I mean, like, yeah, you put Naughty Dog name on that after Last of Us 2 and everything, and it's a Last of Us multiplayer project. I mean, it's a big lack of confidence in their ability to actually release a live service project. And if that, if the people behind Destiny, which are telling you, like, no, this isn't going to work, probably listen to them. That being said, I don't know. Like, they haven't made the greatest decisions with Destiny, so Sony's in a weird spot. Where they put a lot of their eggs in that live service basket, and I think we had a podcast back on Breakout where I said I don't think we're going to see more than 3 of those games ever exist.
You have to say about eggs. They never go bad.
I'm fully expect. I'm fair. Like, just the name of that game, Fair Games. Like, as much as I don't want to, like, ever advocate for a project to fail or cancel or anything like that, just the name alone does not instill confidence in me in that game being good. Nor did its reveal trailer. No.
Yeah, its reveal trailer didn't feel like it had its best foot forward. Those are hard games to sell with a reveal trailer.
Remember Hyenas?
No.
Finals sold me on a reveal trailer immediately. Destruction.
Hyenas got canceled, didn't it?
Hyenas got canceled, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I played the beta for that. It wasn't very good. I hate to sound mean, but it was not good. And the developers knew it wasn't good either.
I think it's hard to sell a multiplayer game in a trailer.
I think outside of the Fortnite audience, people are very sick of very specific aesthetics, and it's the anti-corporate aesthetic while it's being made by a corporate game studio. Just doesn't really come off as genuine, and like there's no sense of style or place in it. It's just kind of a bunch of shit on the screen. Fortnite.
Yeah.
But people love Fortnite because, like, they made it work.
People love Fortnite because it's soup. Like it. Like, what do you like? Do you like anime? Here's some anime. What do you like? Race cars? You like sports?
I like Star Wars.
What do you like? What do you like, kids?
Is the Pope in that game yet? Is Obama in that game? That was a real question.
I don't think so.
That second one was real. The first one was fake.
I don't think Obama's in that game. But I would not be surprised if he just was, and we just didn't. Like, he just wasn't big enough.
Like, of a Obama, John Cena, Naruto, and fucking Kylo Ren just hanging out. I want a contest like the weirdest foursome in that game. Foursome as in like 4 characters, not
the weirdest 4 characters.
Yeah, I want like a screenshot of the weirdest 4 characters in Fortnite. I wonder what the weirdest mix you can do is.
Of like non-original Fortnite characters, not like the Banana Man or the Muscle Cat, but like
I don't know
that shouldn't be together.
Yeah. Because like Smash has like you could do that in Smash and be like, wow, how did this happen? Like, how did
Smashing
Wii Fit
everything
Trainer
together.
and Sephiroth and Rob the Robot and fucking
Like,
Simon
why is
Belmont?
Kazuya grabbing this ice climber woman?
Yeah. And why isn't her partner saving her?
Oh no, some Stephen Brown's gonna be mad that we're not talking about 2023 games yet. Getting there soon.
No, we're not getting there soon because Fat Cock. That's why. We're taking a pause for
Alright.
Fat Cock. $10 dono. Thank you so much. As someone who's invested 453 hours into Starfield, I can safely say, yeah, it's okay. Did you really play 453 hours of that game?
Damn.
You easily you could. Yeah.
I'm just surprised that game, not even that game. That game came out in September. That game came out like 3 months ago. That just wasn't very long.
Like he's just been
lived
playing
and
Starfield.
slept in that game.
Yeah, that's just a lot.
Yeah.
I wonder if Starfield's gonna be on any of our lists. Might be on Nick's list. I feel like Nick was very positive on Starfield.
I'll bet you money it's not on Nick's list.
Did he post his list somewhere?
No, I just know it's
Okay.
not.
I'm gonna take that bet. Nick. Well, I feel like we've sullied the waters right now because
Yeah, it's like now I could just choose who I want to screw over more.
Well, Nick is here sitting here talking about integrity. You're gonna cheat, Nick? That's what you're telling me?
I did not make a list and I did not check it twice.
One fucking job. But you know who did their job? Gerard again. $5. Thank you so much. An extra
You did
$5.
not do your job.
Fucked up. Speaking of someone who didn't fuck up, it's pronounced like jewelry store. Jared, pro tip: keep on mispronouncing it so I can donate again. I will not. No, I'll pronounce it as Jared. I usually see it spelled the opposite, but you know what? Sometimes we learn. Live, laugh, learn.
Stephen Brown also said, "Not mad, Nick. Relax." Just wasn't sure what we were talking about. I know you're not mad.
Stephen Brown.
Now you're mad.
Headed up to here.
Yeah, you chill out.
I go any higher, it is gonna get crazy. Nutscoon, $1.99 dono. Is that you, Nick?
Like, how is it not Nick? It's hilarious to me.
No end of year persona, Nick. You're neglecting me. Is this a conversation you're having with yourself, Nick? I've been busy. Suck it up. We all have problems. No end of year persona. I promise, as God is my witness, we will do persona before Valentine's Day. I was gonna say in January, but I wanted to give myself an extra couple of weeks. We will do it in the first 6 weeks of the year. It'll be great. I don't know if we will. We probably won't. That was probably. I just lied.
We will get there.
Figure it out. It's coming.
We're new year, new problems. We'll figure it out.
Persona's one of the things that shows up in every loading screen. The little tagline: "Take your time." So think about that. Maybe we're taking our time.
Great advice.
Urban M. 50 Polish Zwoti. Thank you so much, Urban M. All that arguing feels like Christmas at home already. Wish you a merry one and looking forward to whatever you're up to next year, Urban M. Thank you so much. We got the goodies for you next year. I promise. The goodiest of the goodies. Pat Ward. $4.99 dono. Thank you so much. Australia didn't warn us about 9/11. Oh, very worried about where this is going. Oh, that's where the $5 from Marty's Fever. That's nice. Whichever comes first, Metroid Prime 4 release or the Elder Scrolls 6 window release.
Metroid Prime 4. It's not even a question.
Because, well, if it's a real game.
Well, they said the release window, not like the actual game's release.
I am more confident that if Metroid Prime 4 releases, it will release before the Elder Scrolls 6. However, in my opinion, Elder Scrolls 6 has a 100% chance of it releasing, and Metroid Prime 4 has like a 55% chance of being real.
Pat Ward wasn't talking about the Elder Scrolls 6 release. He says the release window. So when we know when it might release, will we get Metroid Prime 4?
Remember when they at E3 2022 they said E3 2021 they said our game is coming out November 11th 2022 for Starfield.
Yeah.
18 months out they called their shot. Babe Ruth pointed to the goddamn moon and then they missed it by 9 months. I'm just saying, when someone gives us a release window, like
that wasn't a window. That was a date, though.
That was a specific date. Yeah, he said we're gonna do it.
That's
land our shit on the moon on this date.
That's the kind of confidence I only reserve for saying things on podcasts that I will end up forgetting when they inevitably don't come true. Because God is my witness. And then Dylan Apocalypse gifted 20
Oh
whole
my goodness.
subs over on the YouTube. Thank you so much, Dylan. Congrats to everyone who got your subbies. Welcome to the Green Gang. Guys, is it time to get to the topic?
I think so.
57 minutes
might be.
into this B. We only have one topic, which is fine.
And this is
And
the last podcast of the year, so we could just do this until tomorrow.
Until I die.
Yeah. Enjoy your long podcast, you time stampers.
Oh, this is an easy timestamp though, because it's 58 minutes. I'm gonna write down 58 minutes. No, our favorite games of the year. What would you say this year if you'd have to rate this year on a scale of 1 to 10? Just in terms of the video games, not the drama, not the industry, not the toll it had on humans. How would you rate this year?
I don't think I'm alone in saying that this was kind of a 10-year. Like this might actually be the best single year for video game releases ever. Like regardless of like what has come out in the past and the impact it has had going forward, we've had a couple of those that might impact games going forward, and we've had just amazing sequels to games that we've known and loved for a very long time. Tons of indie stuff that came out and represented stuff that revitalized long dormant franchises. Like 2023 freaking kicked ass in terms of just actual good ass video games. And it's not even finished yet, guys. It's not even done yet.
How is it possible? Nick. What number would you assign?
I would I think I would agree with that. I think I enjoyed more games that I played this year than any other year in recent memory. And so much so that like I haven't been able to even keep up with the games I wanted to play nor finish them. So and not for a lack of not wanting to finish them, just for a lack of like when you're in games media, it's like I gotta jump from the next game to the next game. Like I legit kind of I didn't even fucking remember like Wolong Fallen Dynasty came out this year.
Yeah, it sure did.
And like Wildfrost came out this year. We had Jedi Survivor this year. Like hardly think about that coming out. Final Fantasy, Dead Island 2. Like damn,
yeah,
like, just a lot.
Yeah, I'm hesitant to give a 10 in the moment. I don't want to be a prisoner of the moment. It might be a 10 year. I would say I'm gonna safely give it a 9, and we'll see how it feels a few years from now. But I do think this is up there with your 98s, your 2001s, your 2007s, your 2017s. This is probably of my lifetime. I would say this is probably a top 5er. Maybe like right around 5, but it's been great. And I hear I think the main criticism this year is so many of the games probably we're going to talk about over the next hour or so are sequels, are remakes, are 16th installments, are remakes of classic games, that kind of thing. Especially in the AAA space, I would say. I think we saw less innovation there than we have in some of those previous years, especially like your 98s when Half-Life and Ocarina of Time and Metal Gear Solid, some of these franchises that we're going to be talking about today had their kind of birth. But between the top tier of those games, along with just incredible indie after incredible indie, it's been a banner year, and there's still a handful of games I want to play over Christmas break that I know are going to be in my top 10 and probably my top 5. I'm looking at you, Alan Wake. I know when I give myself to Alan Wake 2, I am like almost positive that is going to be one of my games of the year.
Yeah, I'm really excited to try that out. I have not gotten a chance yet.
Yeah.
And that's not normally a genre that I care about, but like everything I've seen about it like makes me interested, and like I love that world. So like yeah, I'll give it a shot.
Yeah. Wideveed, really quick in the Green Gang. Thank you so much, Wideveed. 2023 is the gift that keeps on giving. In terms of games, yeah. And like we said, it's looking at January and February, that shit is not stopping, which is very exciting. How do we want to go through this? Do you guys have yours listed like in order? Are you a weirdo like me that keeps spreadsheets? Do you keep spreadsheets on games you play? I don't keep spreadsheets.
I mean,
phone apps.
I should do that.
I do. I did my. I did my Twitter list again. So I did back at the Escapist, if you obviously didn't pay attention to what any of us did, and just Yahtzee, I set a goal for myself to complete 30 games this year, or I had to play a game of the community's choosing that would be absolutely terrible. But I've easily beat 30 games.
How many games do you think you beat, Casey?
How many 3 MRs did I do from January to
That
now?
plus a few.
Like that is like the baseline, and then you could probably add a
We
couple
played
on
through a
top
bunch
of
of
that.
games. You know, you got through all the Half-Life series, got through
Yeah, that
through
stuff too. Yeah, the thing
It was
is,
pretty
most of my game library is documented. Like that's the,
Yeah.
like when I'm playing video games, in most cases, it's for work nowadays. Like I don't play a ton in my leisure, and when I do play, um,
It's always Smash.
it's stuff like Smash. Yeah, it's like it's comfort food.
stuff like Smash. It's you can just say Smash.
No, I mean there was a stint where like Street Fighter 6 was taking up that time, and I wish I could get back to it. I've also been
You
doing
think
that
Tek-
with Armored Core 6, which I did
You
not
think
play.
Tekken's gonna? You think Tekken's
I'll
gonna
probably get Tekken because like I have a friend group that's really big on Tekken. Tekken is probably my least favorite of all these sorts of games, but like it's adding a bunch of cool ass like features around its fighting system that I think is worth checking out. Like all its replay stuff, its ghost stuff, it's like training modes and lobby stuff. It has like an arcade based story mode that's an entirely separate thing from its regular story mode that has like giant CGI anime esque cutscenes about uh, the Mushimis beating the shit out of each other. I might mess around with Tekken 8. I was
Does it
not
have like
excited
weird
for it
characters? I
until
like Tekken 3 when it had like a big bear, it had like a piece
I
of
think that
wood,
bear's still in there.
a little dinosaur. Bring back the dinosaur. Gon, I think his name was. He's a little orange
Yeah, a
dinosaur.
little like he had
He's a
like
little too
punching
small.
gloves or something on, right?
Yeah, you can't be having knee-high characters in these games. They got weird hitboxes. They got to be a little bit bigger.
Like a little Yoda.
Like a little Yoda. Yeah, let's Casey, let's start with yours. You listed 5 standout games, one of them being Street Fighter 6.
Yeah, I was just stream of conscious and just stuff that I loved from this year. This list is longer in actuality, but like I can't like this is why like I'm stupid for not keeping the list because I should. But I've said this a couple of times. I think my favorite game to release this year is Lies of P.
Mm,
Like like the more time I spent away from my time with that game, the more I've like missed it and what it's done and like how it felt to go through. Like I started watching videos about its lore just to like re-immerse myself in like what's been going on in that game. Like it's such a good freaking Souls game for especially for it not to be a game made by FromSoft.
yeah. Yeah, I mean it's arguably the best game in that genre not made by FromSoft, and it's arguably a top tier, top 5, top 3 game in that genre, even if you include FromSoft.
Yeah, like it's better than some of FromSoft's actual games in this genre.
Yeah.
Like if you prefer Bloodborne to like any of the Dark Souls, it's as good as Bloodborne. So basically, it's sitting on top of all the Dark Souls games for you. If you're more Bloodborne / Sekiro versus regular Souls game, so
Yeah.
it's an amazing achievement. I loved it to death. I'm
So-
probably gonna play it again at some point.
So it's interesting that you have this game at the top of your list because we have a different non-From Software Souls-like in the art, and it is a game that
Yes,
you reviewed,
yeah.
but I don't think you were quite as fond of as Nick was. So Nick,
Yeah,
tell us why you love Lords of the Fallen so much.
Yeah, I'd put Lords of the Fallen, I think, as my favorite game this year. Probably the game I spent the most time with, and I just really couldn't put it down. I really liked Eliza P too, but God, that last section of that game is such a bad difficulty spike that it was making me rage. Lords of the Fallen did not have that. It was a much more balanced experience for me, I think.
Really?
Yeah, that you cannot tell me that last castle you got to go through in Liza P is not a ridiculously overstuffed difficulty spike with so many
Like-
enemies that you can't do anything but run through it.
I can tell you that because that is not what I did. I did not have to run through that last section. It did get crazy. Like you're right. Like they started putting like really tough enemies, but it was manageable if you were engaging with the game systems in a way that I felt like Lords of the Fallen was not like it was not copying. Like from the very beginning, as soon as you get out into the world of Lords of the Fallen, they were out to prove that they were like bigger and badder and harder than everybody else in a way that just was not fun to me. And I hear they fixed that since then. So I do want to go back and try it out because that game I liked a lot about that game other than just its take on difficulty.
Yeah,
I didn't even find
different
Lords of
are
the
both
Fallen that
those-
difficult.
How different are both those games now compared to when they released in terms of updates?
I'm not sure.
I haven't gone back to Liza P, but like Lords of the Fallen, they balanced out the hardest areas that were very unbalanced in terms of like how many enemies were there. Like they fixed. Performance was fine by the end of it. So I don't know. I like Lords of the Fallen for me was just more like I found the gameplay more fun. Just my specific taste. I think the design of the world in Lords of the Fallen is leagues ahead of Lies of P. Lies of P has a pretty world. I don't think its like map design is the best. It's very quite linear. There's not a whole lot of exploration to do in Lies of P.
It it is a more linear game.
Yeah.
But I honestly feel like Lords of the Fallen is just as linear. They just do a better job in hiding it. And to me, that's a bad thing because they'll send you on a path that you're not sure is the right way, and then it'll eventually loop you back to the right way. And for me, it'll feel like it wasted my time because like the rewards were usually things that weren't worth the hassle of all the extra dumb hard ass enemies that are on that path. Like I was always annoyed by that. But
yeah,
again,
I
they probably
never
have fixed that with the density thing now.
Yeah, I never felt lost in Lords of the Fallen. Like I wanted to explore every nook and cranny of that world to find new gear and upgrades and stuff. And like when I lost my first save, and I had to replay it again, and I go to the same areas, and then I like go a different route, and I find a whole new section of the game. Like that gives me that same sense of like Dark Souls 3 or Elden Ring, where I was like, oh man, I didn't even know this place existed, and then I found it, and like that sense of discovery is what I love about Souls games, and like Lords of the Fallen hit that for me on every mark, despite some frustrations. But personally, like I'm like beyond excited for what that team does next because they're gonna take those learnings and I think they're gonna craft something really, really good.
It felt like both of those games felt very much like inaugurating moments for those two studios of like, oh shit, yeah, we're like welcome to the club kind of thing. Like you're like they're going to be looked at when their next project gets announced.
Absolutely.
Not with at the same level of FromSoft, but like they're in the club. Like so they're in the like at the end of Phantom Menace when the Emperor before he's the Emperor like looks at Jake Lloyd and it's like, oh, we're gonna watch your career with great anticipation, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Except we're not gonna like groom him into becoming a mass murderer. Another developer I know on the list of Casey's games, and you talked about this game last week, is I think Gunfire with Remnant 2.
Oh yeah.
I love Remnant 1 and I haven't even gotten a chance to go back to it yet. Remnant 2.
Yeah, Remnant 2. I have Remnant 2 and Lies of P. I have downloaded on my Xbox, but I have not started either of them because they both Lies of P launched on Game Pass. Remnant 2 came to Game Pass.
Just came to Game Pass a little while ago.
But yeah, what's you talked about last week a little bit, but like what was it about Remnant 2 that really clicked with you?
Yeah, again, like it is very similar to the first game in that it's another. It's not as much a Souls like, but like it takes a lot of Souls trappings and then puts them in like really fun third person like shooter gameplay. It like mixes all the fun of like loot gathering because like it's not so much that it's gear based, it's that you get to do interesting stuff. Like your weapons are like based on like the bosses that you beat. So like if a boss has a weird cool attack that he's doing to you, the weapon drop you get will give you access to that weird cool attack, and then you can take that and use it against other stuff in the world. So it's just fun to explore. And like 2 has just ramped all of that up. Like the different worlds that you go to have unique lore, stories, characters, and like it's genuinely interesting to learn about like what's going on in that space while you're also like shooting all the enemies and like collecting as much gear as you can. Like combat feels good. Like there's tons of secrets packed into everything, like like not just like secret paths, but like there are like secret puzzles, like stuff that you come across and you don't realize what it does or what function it serves until sometime later, until you go look up a guide or a friend tells you, oh, I did this thing and this happened. So like and the fact that it randomly generates those worlds and still manages to keep the mystique alive. Like you'll be in a version of the same world, but like you'll find stuff you just haven't seen before and are experiencing for the first time over and over again. Like you don't know how deep the well goes, and like they can release an update that just deepens it even further, and like you'll be none the wiser. Like I just think it's really, really cool. Like I'm revisiting it with friends, and I'm having a blast like it was the first time I was playing it. It's just really awesome.
Yeah, that's great. That's also on my list of shame that I should have played at some point this year, but by virtue of these jobs, there are too many games and not enough hours in the day. I think apart from those studios that sort of cemented themselves and put themselves on the map, so to speak, I think there was a lot of reaffirming of studios that are like, oh, you're really fucking good at what you do, and that is making really entertaining games. The two that come to mind sort of in that slice are Spider-Man 2 and Jedi Survivor. And those two games are very familiar to their predecessors, but they learned the right lessons, and Respawn and Insomniac have both, we've known this about them forever. In terms of AAA studios, they might have the best feeling characters. Like Respawn and Insomniac, if you go back to Titanfall and Apex and stuff, and then if you go to Insomniac with everything from Sunset Overdrive to Spider-Man, they understand that the gameplay feel of getting from point A to point B is can do so much to draw the player in. And I think both those games are, again, not reinventing the wheel, but just like really fucking good. Like Casey, your video on a game that'll be up in the near future, it talks a little bit about how like sometimes you don't, like, as much as we want to see what is the next new thing, like what is something that we haven't seen before, sometimes doing the familiar and doing it really well and really confidently and at a really high level is incredibly impressive and something that like we should kind of cherish. So I get that with, we have both Spider-Man and Jedi Survivor. I feel like they kind of got left a little bit at the wayside when it comes to the conversation on Game of the Year, if only because they were so good, but also pretty familiar to their predecessors.
Somebody in the comment does not like that I do not like the tower and Liza P. Like, I beat the game. Like, what do you want from me?
You could have just talked about the games I was talking about, Nick.
I'm just laughing at the comment.
Think about we have tens of thousands of people just listening to conversations.
Dad. Yes, Dad.
Okay, that's fine. Just do better next time. Kingdom Commoner with a $5 dono. Thank you so much. Liza P glitched out on hard locked me for 95 minutes in, so I took it as a sign and returned it. You know, sometimes games don't click. Sometimes they don't click for reasons like that, and other times they don't click for I don't know. It's just not your
like
jam.
actual like design reasons.
Yeah.
That's odd. Like because I watched like the Digital Foundry review for Liza P, and like they managed to optimize the crap out of that game. Like it ran really well on like all platforms. So like that's surprising that folks are having technical issues. But like, did you play it on PC? Because
I'm assuming if he returned, yeah, like
I didn't have any problems on PS5.
Yeah, we're not saying console's better, but
and
then King Dead $2 dono. Thank you so much. Marty mentioned Sunset Overdrive. Take a drink. Goddamn right. Talking about games that sometimes it's you're like, I know this is good, but this probably just isn't for me. Baldur's Gate.
It's my second favorite game of the year.
Yeah,
even though I haven't.
Poetic.
Yeah, I think Larian's ahead of the game of anybody else right now in terms of RPG design. Maybe in gameplay, like I think Disco Elysium and all that is up there with, the choice-based design and everything. But Baldur's Gate 3, in terms of like, they literally take immersive sim elements and put it into a giant CRPG. And the way that game just kind of lets you play and solve solutions to things in any way you kind of can come up with within reason. Their design wows me on that. Like, I don't think there's any studio that even comes close to them in terms of that. So I don't know. Yeah, like I kind of soured on it in Act 3. Like I really want to go back to it. I think one of the issues for me is like I'm more like naturalistic fantasy designs, and like so much of Act 3 takes place in a city, so it kind of becomes a little boring visually. But other than that, like I definitely want to want to wrap up the story. Love the characters. Like definitely very happy that Larian finally took home a Game of the Year award because it was a long time coming for them. And yeah, cannot wait to see what they do next. Like people are clamoring for them to do like take on Knights of the Old Republic, and I'm like, please God, let that happen. I want Larian to do all this, do a Star Wars game. I think it'd be incredible.
Want Saber Interactive to make more.
No,
was that who was connected to the?
Asper first.
Asper.
The King says Nick wants Baldur to get through less Baldur's Gate. No, not really that. It just, like I said, I'm kind of. It might have been just because I put like 40, 50 hours into the game very quickly, and then I burned out on it because I had to get to other things. So, I did the same thing I had with Divinity Original Sin 2. I got to the final act, and the final act is always the longest in their games. And so I'm like, all right, I gotta take a little break and come back to this.
Yeah, I already. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Marty.
No, Larian might be the thing we were talking about earlier about like sort of studios feeling like they leveled up. Like Larian might be the one that did level up to like, oh, you're in the VIP room now. Like you are.
Oh yeah.
You are in the same conversation as From and first party Nintendo games and Naughty Dog and everything like that.
Yeah, they're at where BioWare was at in their prime for RPGs.
As we know, it's like anyone can rise and fall, though, because I feel like you would say that's where CD Projekt Red was, 8 years ago, and then 3 years ago, we'd be like, no, you're in the dungeons, and now it's like, all right, you can come back. You did good.
Yeah, I just knowing Swen and his story, like, and just like how involved in every aspect of these games he's in, like, I don't see Larian ever having that issue. Like that is out of the studios like I've done docs with, aside from like 2-person indie teams, that is like the least corporate feeling studio I've ever been to. Like it's just
but having like
pure
this level
fun
of
environment.
Yeah,
it can change you. Yeah, it can.
Absolute power corrupts absolutely. They say.
That was a KC original too. So if you ever hear someone else say that, get mad at them that they didn't attribute it to KC.
Yeah, I've never heard that before. So
yeah. The last few AAA games I want to talk about on my list before we move on to more indie stuff. Casey, you mentioned Capcom and Street Fighter earlier. Capcom is one of those studios talking about a turnaround that over the past couple of years has like went from
do not
kind
miss.
of a laughing stock to like legit feel like they do not miss. We had the Resi 2 and 3 remakes. We had Devil May Cry 5, Street Fighter. Obviously, Monster Hunter, the new one coming out in a few years. But Resident Evil 4 Remake, to me, was sitting right alongside that and Dead Space as, like, if we're going to be doing this whole thing, and we are going to be doing this whole thing, because we're doing this whole thing again with Silent Hill, and we're doing this whole thing again with Metal Gear Solid 3. If we're going to be doing this whole thing, do it like that. Do it to that level of quality. Don't half-ass it. Like, if you do it like that, then yes, you can just keep remaking things forever. Because it's just so impressive. Like, the games feel like new games, or they feel like they feel in my memory, which is just really impressive for both Resi 4 and for Dead Space. In terms of remake, they feel like high watermarks in terms of remakes that I think is going to be unrealistic to expect from other games of the ilk, like the two I mentioned. Also, Konami.
I've very much just never been able to get Resident Evil. Do you think that there's something in the remakes that would like change that, or is it still like, is it so faithful to like what made those games so great that like really only people who are into Resident Evil, which are most people, to be fair, like they're gonna get the full experience?
Was it the story that you didn't like, or the gameplay? Because I feel
it was the gameplay. It was the gameplay.
That's because I feel like if you really liked Dead Space 1 and 2 and 3, I feel like you would like the remakes, not the originals.
Yeah. Like I think the gameplay of Resi 2 Remake and Resi 4 Remake, I think you would be able to sort of vibe with more than some of the previous games if you're looking at them, because the gameplay in the previous games can be pretty archaic. Although 4,
like the tank control stuff, for example, like that's a thing of the past, right? Like that's not for nostalgia's sake something that they held on to.
Yeah, Resi 4 feels just like a really, I don't know,
It's
it
more
just
like an
feels like an
action
Indiana
game, really.
Jones movie to me, where it's like it is so perfectly paced and it delivers something entertaining so at such consistent beats, and you're constantly meeting new characters and go to new locations, and it's just like there's such a sense of momentum in the game, while also just feeling really good. And I think it walks the fine line. It's not as tongue in cheek kind of kitschy as the original one, but it still keeps some of that flavor to keep it from tasting like a diet soda or anything. That was I don't want to
Okay.
out diet sodas, but I don't know. They don't taste
They're
like
bad.
regular
It's okay to
sodas.
say that.
They're bad and they're for bad people, and if you drink them, you're a bad person. That's just all I wanted to say. Nothing major though. And then for me, the in terms of AAA, Nintendo had the biggest year. Surprise, surprise. But 3 of my probably top 7 games are first-party Nintendo games in Pikmin 4, Mario Wonder, and Tears of the Kingdom, which is my favorite game of the year. Just if this is the last year of the Switch, it is pretty wild that Nintendo is going out on this note. That Nintendo is able to keep this level of quality 7 years into a console's life. And again, like the biggest knock against them, which I totally understand, is the one game is the 4th in the franchise, and the 2 other are the 30th games in their franchises. And like, what are you doing, Nintendo? But I think Mario Wonder does to 2D Mario games, and Tears of the Kingdom does to 3D Zelda games. It brings so many new ideas to where they don't feel familiar. Even when they do feel familiar, in that I know this Hyrule or I know 2D Mario games, they are constantly surprising you with new ideas, and I think most importantly, like some of the like tightest, best feeling, most responsive mechanics of just any game I've played in recent memory. Nick, I know you recently started playing Tears of the Kingdom.
It finally clicked for me over the weekend. I think I spent almost 15 hours playing it over this past weekend. KC, I know you're kind of in the same boat with me, where like it wasn't clicking for you. As soon as I started messing with like the weapon fusing, I got over that hump pretty quickly, because like I was getting very frustrated because I was like kept getting one shot every time I go in a different direction. I felt like I couldn't do anything because I just couldn't find any good gear.
Mm-hmm.
And immediately as soon as I get there, I get hit, or I couldn't find arrows or anything. And then once I really like, I almost feel like the game doesn't like let you know how important fusing is just to making progress.
Yeah, it's almost like there are no weapons that are decent unless you fuse them. At least in the early game, I found.
It's I'm like in the first like majors. Well, I'm up in the Zora region again, and like it's kind of been the same thing, but like if you like take down a big enemy and like you fuse their stuff, you can like get weapons with like 30-40 damage, and it makes a huge difference like right away. But some of the I feel like Breath of the Wild had a bit better direction, like leading you in the right direction to get started, where Tears of the Kingdom really kind of just really tosses you in the deep end right away.
I guess they expect you to have warmed up with Breath of the Wild, since it's built in the same engine and stuff.
Yeah. But like once I just kind of got into the loop of like, all right, I'm gonna focus on going to the shrines and getting my hearts up first and getting my stamina up first, and then getting into the loop of going to explore caves and caverns and stuff, and getting money and gear to start taking on the big story missions. The loop kind of clicked into place for me again. So like I would definitely recommend, like, if you had a hard time breaking in, like just prioritize like beefing up your character first, almost like a Dark Souls game.
I mean, that's kind of what I did by accident, because I had so little time to put into it when it was newer. Like I would play for like maybe 15-20 minutes at a time, and I would just do shrines. Like I wouldn't go follow any story missions. I'd like, whatever shrine is around me, let me do that. So I ended up with like a bunch of the seeds, but I don't remember where I turned them in. So I still have 3 hearts to this day, 3 or 4 hearts, and like I could increase that. I don't remember how.
You gotta go back to the time shrine at that opening island.
Oh, I gotta teleport back to the beginning.
Yeah,
that's the only place. Okay.
Well, there's other places, I haven't found them yet, but I honestly like haven't finished it, but
that might help, honestly. Yeah, if I just get more hearts.
After getting sucked into Tears of the Kingdom over the weekend, I would put it in my top 3 games of the year.
There's the main one you end up upgrading throughout most of the game is in that first, once you get to the ground, you get to that first kind of, not even a city, but like the garrison kind of in front of the castle gates. Pretty early on in the game, you can like go down a well there, and there's like a kind of like a makeshift hospital and stuff, and there's one of those statues there that's like the praying statues. You just
I need to go there too.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, the big thing about that game is like get through the tutorial, get to the ground, do the main quests for a little bit because you need to. That's how you unlock like the Pura
The
pad, and that's how you
glider
unlock the
thing, right?
glider. That's
Yeah.
is how it sort of tells you about go to all those towers and do the exciting thing where you get shot up in the air and stuff. And once you get that off your plate, then once you get that done, then it's like, yep, go hog wild. Did you do
Oh.
the bird place first, Nick? In terms of like, or did you go straight to the Zora thing?
Bird place.
Yeah, like the northwest corner of the map is where the birds live, and it's like covered in snow. Like that is I think by design that is like the first of the 4 dungeons you're supposed to go to, and it is probably the easiest of the 4. So if you went straight to Zora, that might be why it feels tough. You can do it in any order, but I believe Zora was like originally the first one to do in Breath of the Wild.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
they switched things up in this game, like tricksters.
I will
Yeah.
I will take that into account when I go back to it. Weird thing. So my funny breakout thing, I brought up like my LGC one all the time, but weird thing about Tears of the Kingdom and also Switch on this that like has blown my mind over the weekend is that I am basically playing Tears of the Kingdom on that TV at 60 frames on my Switch.
I still don't understand it when you talk about it. That doesn't make sense to me.
It does not. It like so when you're playing it normally, it's like 30 frames, stable 30 frames. On my TV, because of the settings on there, it has like you can turn on VRR and motion or boosting. It like has made the game look as smooth as 60 frames. Like if I videotaped it, you'd be like, "What?" And like I tried it with that, and I was like, "Is it just something with Tears of the Kingdom?" And then I put on Pokemon Violet, and that game runs like it looks like 60 frames on there. It's almost like it's emulating 60 frames.
I don't get it though.
I don't either, but it's like the Tears of the Kingdom is immensely smooth on my TV, and I'm like this. It doesn't feel choppy or anything.
I don't get it. I don't get how it works.
Either.
I don't understand.
I don't know.
Show Nintendo. Let them know that this is happening.
Yeah, like maybe Switch has VRR built in and nobody told them.
None of us know. Yeah, are you just doing with motion smoothing? Like
no, I have motion
uncles
smoothing
at a
turned
holiday?
off. No, if you have like I have this game optimizer setting on my TV that can turn on variable refresh rate in whatever you're doing, along with like this boost setting, and it makes every game like as smooth as it would be like playing on a really good computer monitor.
TGK reminds me, this is like almost a year ago exactly. Remember when I kept telling you to put Marvel Snap in 60 frames per second?
Yeah.
And I was like, I can't explain it. You're gonna get your goddamn mind blown when you do
Just
this.
you know what? We'll get you a ticket and fly you to Kansas City so you can see what I'm talking about, and your mind will be fucking blown.
I've had that TV on my list.
Yeah, it's worth it.
I'll spend my first paycheck on it in February. There you go. Yeah, those were there any other AAA games that stand out before we move to more indie things?
I mean, probably like Hi-Fi Rush. Does that count as AAA?
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's funny in the year of everyone expecting Starfield to be the big winner for Microsoft. Hi-Fi Rush turned out to be that right at the beginning of the year. Probably one of the nicest surprises of the year, because since we didn't know it existed until it was in our lap.
Yeah, and the fact that it came out so early in the year has done it a disservice in terms of the conversation, because like it would be cool to have it like keep being brought up in like the rest of the talks, but like it I think it did deserve more shine than it got. But I'm glad that it's got at least some shine, because that's a really good ass video game.
It really
like
is.
we were talking about like games that like do a thing really well. Like this did both. Like it's a spectacle action fighter that like is following to the T like what it means to like diversify combat encounters and like make a character that feels fun and cool in combat, but also it's all rhythm based, and that's just brand freaking new for that genre. Like I can't think of another game that focuses that heavily on like the musical aspect of timing, because like that's the core of a spectacle action fighter, right? Is like rhythm and timing, and like they just took that to its full logical conclusion.
Yeah, I completely agree. I was really impressed by it. It showed a different side of Tango that I didn't realize they had, but I thought was awesome. And yeah, I'm really excited for what that team does next, whether it's more of that or whether it's something else. Even though obviously Shinji Mikami leaving the studio, similar, with Kamiya leaving the studio, his studio in Platinum. Curious to see what they do on their own in the future once their non-competes are up. But also, hopefully, more. I think I'm more hopeful for Tango without Mikami, just because this game Mikami didn't do too much on this game,
Yeah,
and they were able to make like a rad game.
was kind of a post Mikami project almost.
Yeah. But yeah, just really really good stuff.
I think
yeah,
my big surprise AAA game that I really enjoyed this year was Dead Island 2.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's another that like fell through the cracks in terms of conversation.
Yeah, it's the combat is really fun in the game. Like there's a lot of like really well designed levels that it's not like a pointless open world. Like I thought Dying Light 2 I was going to love the hell out of that game because I love Dying Light 1, but I got quite bored with Dying Light 2, and like Dead Island kept things like nicely paced, visually interesting throughout the entire game, and the combat was really a lot of fun. And it just didn't overstay its welcome. So it was like one of those games that really was like my, I don't know. I played and beat it over 2 days. Like I didn't want to put it down. So it's a sign of a game I enjoy. And I actually do like want to go back to the DLC that they just released.
Yeah, it feels like I hear more people talking positively about that game in the whatever couple months since it released than anyone has talked about Dying Light 2 in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A game that I routinely forget exists, and not in like a pejorative sense, but just in a
Yeah, I played quite a bit of not the one Nick is talking about, the other one. I can't
Dying Light 2.
Dying Light 2, yes. And like like you said, like I forget that that's a game I actually played.
Yeah, Dead Island 2 stuck with me a lot more. I mean, the story isn't anything to write home or anything about, but like just the progression of combat in that game and every weapon customization, everything like really just kind of did more for me. And I think it was more less is more kind of thing. It just didn't overstay its welcome or drag out its campaign for any needless reason. So yeah, and the gore system, and that's a lot of fun. So so much so that like Dying Light 2 did go back and like do an update later on to like try to compete with that gore system after Dead Island 2 released, which I don't think many people actually knew happened.
I definitely did not know.
Yeah,
that was
the Dying Light 2 is still getting a bunch of cool updates and stuff like that. But
yeah, the thing that sucks is it's like, man, first impressions are huge with me. Like if your game comes out and I've played it, and then you're like, we're gonna make it even better afterwards, I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna come back. Like there's too many things. Everyone keeps saying like Saints Row got a bunch of like huge upgrades. I'm like, I already put my time in those minds.
Yeah, they had their chance.
One game I was surprised that's not on any of our lists. Or maybe I'm not surprised, but it is Final Fantasy 16.
Yeah. So
it's a game I really enjoyed the game and its story, but by golly, did that game get repetitive?
Yeah, it's I don't have it on my list, partly because I still haven't finished it. I think I'm like 85% through and never finished it. And the further away I get, the more worried I am that I'm like, ooh, I'm gonna start forgetting this very quickly. I got this PlayStation Portal, and I'm like, this is what I'm gonna use to finish it. And now it's just collecting dust behind me with its young son, the Cranker, because I have a fancy new 3D, I have a fancy new 3DS that I'm taking out to the debutante ball with me. Yeah, I don't. The other part of it is in jumping back into the Final Fantasy VII games, I'm like, I care about these characters so much more than I cared about the characters in Final Fantasy 16.
Yeah.
And again, that's 25 years of caring about these characters, but still, it is. Yeah, I don't know. Final Fantasy 16 isn't bad, but it is not. It is not lingering in my memory.
It makes that cardinal sin of trying to appeal to too many. Like it left behind the turn-based folks who like love all the traditional Final Fantasy games, and it's trying to reach out to the spectacle, actiony fan base. And I played that demo, and it left a good impression in terms of like,
I loved that demo actually,
visual and like world building. But gameplay wise, it feels a little basic. Like it is the first time this team is trying out a game like this. That's what it feels like. So like it definitely, I don't think would hold.
It's a game that just goes on way too long. really should have been like a 12 to 15 hour experience, and it goes on for 30 hours with lots of dead air in between the big story moments.
It's an action game that thinks it's a JRPG.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah, it has. I think Marty, when we last talked about it on break, I was like, it has all the trappings of like bad JRPG design in a game that wants you to move fast and have quick action moments.
My problem isn't those things. It is like secretly trying to be an MMO because of its 14 roots. And it's that side quest MMO bullshit. It's where its side quests are bad.
Side quests are very bad.
But then the problem is 1 out of 10 is very good.
Yep.
And so you're like, well, I guess I gotta keep doing this. I gotta find the berries for the sad blacksmith so I can get to the one side quest where I'm like, oh, what did you do? You killed your servant. Like, this is awful. Like that kind of thing.
Yeah, I feel like you either have a very linear directed story in an action game, or you go full Witcher 3 open world with fully designed side quests, but not so many that like they're just filler.
Yeah.
And like that's the other game. Like Cyberpunk snuck up on me, and I finally played through all of it, and that ended up becoming one of my favorite games this year too.
Also favorite games of 2023. Do we count that as a this year game? That's not like a
Phantom Liberty came out this year.
The DLC for sure. Yeah.
I think the game was finally. I mean, the game that was their 2.1 was their last update for that game, so it's finally done this year. I don't consider that game until this year. Yeah, they did 2.0 with Phantom Liberty, and then they were like, no more updates, and then they're like, oh, well, by the way, here's 2.1. Right after I finished the goddamn game, and they add the whole monorail system in, and I'm like, why?
They put a monorail in the game?
Monorail.
They finally put the whole not monorail. They finally put the whole metro system in the game that people were yelling about that didn't exist, but it was shown in trailers.
Oh. People were mad that there weren't trains. There's trains in Spider-Man. I never used them. I
guess
there's trains in Spider-Man 1. Immersion. Immersion. Yeah, that was. Is that all on the triple? I almost said the Triple H front. The Triple H front. Just speaking of Square, one of my 10 favorites, but it's just me. The Fiat Rhythm final bar line. That's just the little music ditty that is all of the Final Fantasy games, and then with the DLC, it is like so many other Square Enix games. If you're a fan of that franchise, it is one of the most loving tributes to the franchise that I could ever imagine, and only gets better in my eyes having just replayed 1 through 6. It is wonderful. Final Fantasy Fiat Rhythm is a joy. So if you're a fan of Final Fantasy, recommend it. I honestly like it way more than Final Fantasy 16, if I'm being honest. So yeah.
Wow.
But as we move on to indie games, a couple of super chats first. Pattern Pike, $5 dono. Hi, I like this week's windbreaker, and about how the conclusion was you can fix the game industry by fixing the structural issues with modern capitalism. It's that easy.
It's just that easy.
It's just that easy. We'll be able to do it just fine. Don't worry. Cade Brockhausen with a $2 dono. Thank you so much, Cade. There's a Hylia statue in every town for upgrades. Nick's going to save so much time now that he knows about those Hylia statues.
There is?
Yeah, every town has one right at the front of it.
What?
Yeah.
Even the first town?
Even the first? Yeah.
The first town is in the garrison?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's in the well. You just at the center of the garrison. You just go down a little ladder into a well, and there's folks hanging out. And there's a little makeshift hospital and a kitchen and stuff. And there's a little statue
I've definitely never been in there.
Prayers up.
Like right in front of the Castle Hyrule, that garrison.
Yeah, the one that's like a little.
I've been going up to the stupid time tower and having to redo that puzzle every fucking time to get in there to get my upgrades.
Yeah.
Fuck you, Tears of the Kingdom. I don't like you anymore. Out of my top 5.
Don't you ever say that.
Oh
yeah, right. It's gonna ultra hand its way right back in there. Sounds like a threat. But then with a $4.99 dono, Dr. Zebra, thank you so much. Marty, I am playing and loving a Highland song. Thanks for the reco. And now a song. Now from the top, make it drop. That's some wet ass. Whoa. I didn't expect that to go there. And then there's a cat emoji.
Oh.
That was first off, Dr. Zebra, great to see you. Thank you so much. I did not expect that. Was a really nice message, especially that's weird at the end of a thing about a Highland song, which is a very warm kind of folksy indie game. for it to go to that. A Highland song is actually my number 2 game of the year. If we
Ooh.
want to get into indies, that is my favorite game outside of Zelda. I have a bite size that went up the last week about it. Recommend checking that out for just my overall take on the game. But it is one of the reasons I love Breath of the Wild and Death Stranding so much is how they took the sort of feeling of wandering and translated it into gameplay. This game does the same thing on an indie scale, but pairs it with some of the most gorgeous hand-drawn, painterly 2D visuals, an amazing story, and some like really great like choice and consequence gameplay. That feels like it's like I don't know if you did you guys were you guys into choose your own adventure books as a kid, whether it was like
Uh,
Goosebumps or any.
yeah, like there was like one or two of those that I read and really liked.
Okay, so I used to fuck with those all the time. I loved them. And this feels like the like genuine evolution of that. In a really great way. And so yeah, highly recommend Highland Song. That's at the top of my indie list. Casey, what are some indies that stood out to you this year?
Um, yeah, I feel like no one remembers that the game Humanity released this year, or like maybe no one played it, but like that puzzle game is phenomenal. And like there have been a lot of really good puzzle games that came out this year. Talos Principle 2, Cocoon. Um, but Humanity is my favorite. Like I played that game first, and it still left such a strong impression on me. Like its music, uh its theming, like the story behind what's going on surprisingly actually makes sense. Like it tells a coherent, intelligible plot. And that's surprising because that game looks like pure nonsense. It looks like the sort of whimsical, up your own ass, avant-garde puzzle nonsense that you get all the time from smaller studios that are focused on puzzle games. But like it tells an actual coherent story that's interesting, it's cool, and it has like a touching message by the end of it. All with this really cool puzzle mechanic of you leading a group of people, lemmings like, uh, through weird, abstract environments, around certain obstacles and traps and things, using different abilities to like get them there. Um, and it's infinitely replayable because you can. It has an entire level editor in there, and folks are probably getting to town just making the most insane nonsense you can think of using all the little tools that they let you use. So I've not gone back to it like I've been meaning to, but I had a great time with Humanity. I kind of just want to listen to its soundtrack again.
Yeah, and Humanity is developed by Enhance. That's Mizuguchi-san's studio. Mizuguchi is known for as the creator of Rez, and then also Tetris Effect, which that is like in terms of flow state, like his games
Mm.
really know how to hit that in a real trippy way. And I think Humanity does the same thing. Yeah, I wish. I don't know. I feel like Humanity didn't get the same kind of level of conversation around it as some of the other big indies. You mentioned Cocoon. There's
Yeah.
Dredge earlier this year. It felt like there was more of a conversation around those in terms of like, oh, this is the big indie we want to point the finger at right now, like a good finger, not a bad finger, like a big
Like
foam
it,
finger at a
It's
sporting
not
event.
super. I mean, it's cool looking, but it's not like visually artistically pleasing.
Man, I think it's really artistically pleasing, but
yeah,
I
like
do think it's a harder sell than what
I do
Cocoon
too.
or
It's just,
Dredge.
but it's a
yeah,
very,
it's not like graphically
it's not,
intensive at all,
yeah, it's
right?
not like
But
super pretty pixel art or anything like that.
Yeah, yeah.
like what it chooses to do and how it conveys like its aesthetic and stuff, I think is actually like really visually arresting. And like and paired with its soundtrack, which I think plays a really big part in like that game's feel. Like I absolutely love it.
Yeah. Um, yeah, and like you mentioned sort of the indie puzzle games of the year. I felt this was a strong year for some really smart puzzles, whether they're Humanity, Cocoon you mentioned, which is much I was going to say more narrative driven, but is it?
No, it's more
It's
focused at
it's
the
more
very
focused
least.
and it more
Yeah.
feels like you're going on like a singular adventure.
Yeah.
You might not know the exact what's and whys and whens of the story, but then also Chants of Sennaar, which
Oh yeah, that.
yeah, I know Yahtzee and I both really liked. That is the kind of like language based puzzle game. Also incredibly distinct art style, kind of looks like Sable from a few years ago, but yeah,
Does
that
that
was one of
tell
those.
like a cool story as well?
Yeah, it's just kind of like a parable about the Tower of Babel. So I wouldn't say it's
Gotcha.
like, yeah, the story isn't going to be like, oh my god, I can't believe that character moment at the end. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I think all the indies we mentioned, few of them, very few of them sort of had the impactful story that we've gotten in some other years with with your Undertales or whatnot. But yeah, I thought it was great. I was a fan of all of those. Nick, did you have any standout indies?
Yeah, my number one of the year that I've spent way too much time playing is Wildfrost, which
Yeah.
is the roguelite deck builder game. So if you like Slay the Spire or any game like that, you would probably love Wildfrost. And they also just did one of the issues people had with it was it's very hard. Very randomized, kind of you get lucky if you win kind of thing, but they just updated the difficulty a bit to make that easier. So now it's like the perfect time to jump into that game. So yeah, if you haven't played Wild Frost, like highly recommend. Like just a really, I don't know, addictive art style, music. The gameplay feels good. The deck building and cards are like super fun. Constantly like there's a lot of reasons to go back and play it, and I've kind of alluded to on streams lately when I've been talking about Wild Frost is I don't want to spoil anything. So, but there's like a really cool twist if you do beat a run. But yeah, like it's if it's with the winter sale coming up in like 2 days, that goes on sale, and if you like Slay the Spire, I guarantee you will love Wild Frost.
Is that is that just on PC or is that on everything?
It's on. Ooh, that's a good question. I don't know. I'm assuming Eric will have a trailer up in a second or so on it, but
That's an assumption though, because I feel like we're done talking about it and now we're moving on to the next.
Yeah, a couple other Deeps asked what one was that called? It's called Wildfrost by Chucklefish.
It's like regular Frost, but wild.
Yeah.
It looks like it's only on PC and Switch.
Oh, I was about to say it doesn't count, and then you said Switch, and I was like, it's fine. Yeah.
The other indie game, it kind of straddles the line of indie, not indie, but I think Jusant was one of my favorite games this year too. I think the end of the game isn't anywhere near as strong as the opening, like just visually and everything. I think like the first two areas are the best areas of that game, the first area and then the wind area are really good. But like, boy, that game kind of just gets going and then ends very quickly. But I really love the gameplay mechanics of that game, and man, I hope
it felt really good to climb in that game.
Yeah, I hope they take another stab at it and make a sequel that's more freeform climbing, Tears of the Kingdom like, but with that same type of art style and like same just focus on climbing and that's it.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was a really good start to like what they had there. Like I honestly felt by like the middle of that game that I wish there was a little bit more to it. Like even if the climbing was exactly the same, I wish that there was like maybe more of a puzzle around the climbing or maybe even like some light combat. Like I just wanted something to break up the climbing section so that they would feel more like I would miss them a little bit so I could just come back and then have that to do as a side thing. Like it was a really short game, like a very focused experience, which I'm not opposed to, but like that really feels like it should be part of a bigger thing. So yeah, I hope they get a second chance.
I actually don't feel like, at least for me, I don't feel like it needed any more of that. I think just I was really sold on the game when it felt like a straight up journey to get to the top of the mountain kind of thing. And then when it was broken up into levels, that kind of took me out of it a bit. And like I was really just hoping for it to like continue progressing uninterrupted as you make your way up to the top of this mountain. And I think like
I get that.
The other abstract stuff wasn't even necessary that they were trying to do because the story didn't interest me at all.
Yeah, there's a story about kind of what happened, I guess, at that place. Like I tried to get into it and like piece it together, but yeah, it wasn't that interesting.
Yeah, so like if they do make like a sequel, just keep it all, like make it like an open mountain climbing game, and just let me figure out how to get to the top. Because that was like what I loved about Death Stranding was just the journey to get from one place to the other, and I was really hoping for more of that out of Jusant, and then it kind of ended up being a bit too directed for my taste. But I still really like enjoyed the atmosphere of it and everything.
No game's
and
great.
then-
Death Stranding.
yeah, it is. I got retweeted by Kojima.
I didn't know that. A24 is Kojima.
And then the last game for me. I mean, there's others, but Sea of Stars, obviously. Really just enjoyed that game from beginning to end. Just artistically, story wise, combat wise, like just was a game that I had a hard time putting down. The only area of the game I do not like is a certain sci-fi-ish area. Did not like that. But like when I'm actually like the whole 3/4 of the game I love.
I need to get back to that. Yeah.
It's I agree with Eric in the chat saying the first hour is really slow. I completely agree. It is. I think that is one of its cardinal sins compared to the games it's pulling from. Like I think the first hour of Chrono Trigger and Final Fantasy VI are both incredible, and this one is like a lot of hand holding. Well, wait and give you your powers, and here's the story, and here's the backstory. But once you get going and once you have a full party, it's the places you go, the characters you meet, the things you do are just really satisfying. The game is just fucking gorgeous. It's stunningly beautiful. And if you're a fan of the Messenger, it's like got a little shared universe thing, but it's not like super in your face or not necessary. So it's like, I think handled well to where it doesn't feel like you have to do your homework beforehand, but is a nice bonus for hardcore fans of Sabotage's games.
Neat.
Yeah. The last handful of indies I had written down that just stood out to me by doing one thing or another that I really loved. Void Strangers, which I've talked about on the stream before.
Is that in the account? Because I wanted to try that.
I don't think so. I just bought that myself. We should put it in the account though. I think that'd be a fun game for you guys to maybe do a stream in the new year.
Yeah.
Especially if you're going pretty blind. That's a Sokoban game.
Void Stranger is like Void Strangers.
Void Strangers. That's the block pushing puzzles.
Yes.
But it quickly, because it is one of those games where it is you think you know what the game is about, but you don't, which is I think the tagline for the real world. But I mean it more about the game. Really cool. Mentioned a bunch of the other ones. Obviously, Suika game. It's not just like a goof to me. Like I think Suika game is just a perfect palate cleanser. I play it once every 3 days. I play literally one match every 3 days, and it is just delightful. Like I think the game is just absolutely delightful, and I wish the official version was on way more than just Switch. Yeah. So, been having an absolute blast with Suika. And then from earlier on in the year, two that came out very early were Season, A Letter from the Future, and Pizza Tower. Both of which have like a very kind of clear mission statement, and their mission statements end up being like really things that just stick with me. Season being this.
I started Season and I just I don't know, I just couldn't stick with it.
Yeah, a game.
It's very slow paced.
It's a game I really like, but I have not recommended to a lot of people because it is very much like up my alley, my very specific alley of which Frost and Yahtzee now make fun of, but games that make me feel like I'm in an actual place, like games that really have a strong and confident sense of place to it, and I feel like a part of that place. And that game does that. Like mechanically, the game is very minimal and kind of janky, and the storytelling isn't always up to par of like the visuals and everything, but it's a game I really dug. And then Pizza Tower, just what more can be said about Pizza Peppino and his journey through that evil tower.
If you like Pizza Tower, keep an eye on that Anton Blast game coming out next year.
I played the demo of that. It's crazy because that demo came out like before, like right when Pizza Tower came out, so it's not
connected in any way, and they have very similar art styles. Yeah,
just something in the water. Yeah, that's like an Armageddon Deep Impact thing. I don't think there's any malfeasance or anything, but that's really interesting to me. And then a few late year ones that I still haven't had a chance to roll credits on, but I want to play more of over the break. Were Bomb Rush Cyberfunk. which might be the one that does the spiritual successor without the original creators better than any other game so far. Obviously, that being Jet Set Radio. In Stars and Time, which is an amazing time loop RPG with one of like the most endearing cast of characters I've ever played. We're gonna have a bite size from Rachel on that probably sometime next week, and then Thursday. Oh, this Thursday. Oh, wonderful. That's like the next week of last week. And then World of Horror, which also, speaking of Rachel, she did an incredible review back, The Escapist of World of Horror, but that is the 1D Junji Ito inspired horror roguelike that is great. Yeah, one of my faves of the year.
Sweet.
Did you guys have any other standouts?
Yeah, I guess real quick, I'll just mention. I know this game came out actually forever ago, but Dokapon Kingdom Connect. Like we started messing around with it because of Marty's recommendation, like back on the old channel. But like I have to say, that is a really fun online game experience. And it's shocking to me that more people didn't copy the Mario Party formula but make it better, because that's all Dokapon Kingdom actually does. And not only make it better, they make it nuts. Like that game is such a hodgepodge of just random like hilarity that just it works so well as an online board game. And like its netcode is actually like I've never played a more sensible continuous online campaign. But like Dokapon will just immediately put you back in the room exactly where you were when you left the group of friends you're playing with. And like that's surprising. Like it works surprisingly well in this day and age for a game that's this old even. So like kudos to Dokapon Kingdom. That is a great game. If you have like a bunch of friends that you want to play a Mario Party game with, choose this over actual Mario Party. It is better. It's a much better experience.
We're gonna put to the test how good is the game when you haven't played it for a few months and have to jump right back in.
We have to come back and figure out what the hell
we will
we're
be
doing.
continuing. We will finish our playthrough in 2024, having not played since early November. I think that was like one of our first second
That
win
was
streams.
like our first stream.
Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. It is really fun, and like it is one of those things where they should just. I don't know why more people just don't steal this.
Yeah, it's such a good idea, and like they're the only people who capitalize on it. But then they did that forever ago and haven't made another one since. It's weird.
Yeah.
And then my final shout out will be the Ghost Runner 2, which
yeah.
is just a balls to the wall, like breakneck pace action platformer. It is so good feeling. Like it's a 3D first person splatformer. Like if you like Celeste, if you like Super Meat Boy, Katana Zero, like it's basically Katana Zero in 3D. In all honesty, like you die in one hit, enemies die in one hit. The platforming is like challenging, but like super like smart and clever. You have all these really cool abilities that you can use freeform. Like it's as creative as you can get. Like you can do like really cool shit in its combat arenas. Its story is there, like it's not offensive or anything, but like it's a really really fun gameplay loop, and they even built in a little roguelite thing so that you can kind of play that game for a time infinitely with like new challenges and like wrinkles to the system. So like it's a lot of fun.
It felt like a big sequel that got lost.
Yeah, for sure.
The maelstrom of huge games that came out this year.
I like it quite a bit.
My last recommendation is a game I just recently played, Amnesia: The Bunker, which is the Alien Isolation sequel that we never got, basically, which makes me very happy. And I hope Frictional sticks with taking up that mantle that Sega will not let Creative Assembly do and dismantle that whole team. Fuck you, Sega. Just kidding. But also not really.
But seriously, how could you?
How could you?
Yeah, that was, I think, in terms of kind of big indie horror, that was one of the standouts of the year, along with World of Horror.
Yeah, I feel like not enough people appreciate like the design that went into that game because it's really good.
Yeah,
I don't know if you're inside all the time or not.
It's a tough year. Like it is a tough year for any of these games to stand out. Like there are other years where we mentioned like 25 games that I think on weaker years would have been in a lot of people's top 5, but like
Easily.
and it's just like, a couple of years ago when like It Takes Two, nothing against It Takes Two, but like when It Takes Two won Game of the Year at the Game Awards, like there's a lot of games this year that I think would have beat It Takes Two. So I think that's just a testament to how strong 2023 was in terms of releases, and I think we sort of showed the entire breadth of them, going from the triplest of AAA to the singlest of single A. Jason Tudor, no mention of Cocoon. We cocooned. We talked about Cocoon. We talked about those little boys. Talk about those little bugs, those little bugs going on their adventure. Why wasn't that game just called Ants or A Bug's Life?
There's probably a reason. I can't think of it though.
That could have been called A Bug's Life. Right?
What bug lives that life though? It's a very odd life.
A bug. It's not
life
a bug.
a bug.
It's not talking about every bug. It's just a bug.
This it's called This Bug's Life.
This Bug's Life. A couple super chats that came in. Board Zombies, $5. Indie Wise, any In Stars and Time love? You know what? Just for you, I went back in time and talked about In Stars and Time. Just because of that, Rachel will have a great bite size going up later this week, so tune in for that. And then Stephen Brown with a $2 dono. Chia was an early gem that's been forgotten. That was a game I was really excited about going into this year, and I really appreciate the game, but it didn't spark the same sort of joy that a lot of the other indies we talked about were.
Sure. Yeah, it looked cool. I never got any time with it though.
Yeah. I'm glad it seemed to do pretty well though, so that's good. I'm pro a team being like, we're gonna make a game that is heavily inspired by our homeland that gets very little sort of publicity and love in any medium. So good for that. You know what? Sense of place, you did it. You made a game with a sense of place. And then Nick Akers, thank you so much for the $5 dono. Longtime listener, first time caller. Shout out to Amy in the Sly stream for introducing me to Adventure is Nigh. So glad it lives on. Also, hello Nick from a fellow Kansan. Is that it? You're Kansas?
I'm Missourian.
Oh, but you're Kansas City.
Yeah.
That's tricky.
Same
That's a little
thing.
too tricky. Oh, that you can't say that. Are you from New York?
New York is pretty much the same thing as New Jersey.
Oh shit! You got me.
You
got me. You got me. You monster.
They'd never admit it.
When there's all kinds of games about New York. Where's New Jersey? Why does no game feature New Jersey?
It's a great question.
Why can't
have you ever been to the Statue of Liberty in a video game?
Did you know, like in Spider-Man, when you try to go to New Jersey, it just says turn around?
Yeah, because Spider-Man don't swim. He hates that water.
Yes.
Also, there's like dead bodies in that river.
Spider-Man needs to learn how to do water webs. That's what.
There's literally
The wet webs.
They swim in the game. He just glides. What do you mean? He just glides on the water in the game.
I like in 2. He kind of just like skis on the water.
Literally just skis on the water.
It's very good. It's very good. Before we wrap up for the evening, is there any stuff you guys have been playing or watching that you want to gab about? Nick, thoughts and prayers on the Warrior news.
That sucked.
However, Netflix has done this before. Netflix has the rights to Warrior now. HBO said they are not going forward with Warrior, has sold the rights to Warrior, the hit television series that Nick and KC love, to Netflix. Netflix will be airing Warrior with the possibility of creating more Warrior. And they've done that in the past with Manifest, and I could see them being Warrior boys.
This is good, actually, because I'm sure there's a bigger fan base or a bigger subscriber number of Netflix users than there are Max users. So if you guys, aside from all the money you're paying us to help us out, if you really want to help Nick and I out, watch Warrior.
It's so 1, good. 2, 3
when it comes on Netflix. Please.
There's 500 of you listening to this podcast. If you don't watch Warrior and it gets canceled on season 4, I will never forgive you.
It's an honest travesty that it has to fight to exist like this.
It has to fight against all these Marvel shows.
What was it? It was on Showtime or Cinemax first?
It was on Cinemax. Cinemax never promoted it. HBO gets it, hardly promotes it. Fuck, like Netflix. If you don't
listen,
promote the show,
that's why this show is called Warrior, because it's a fighter. It survived Cinemax. It survived HBO Max. Give it a new home on Netflix. Maybe they'll appreciate it.
At a certain point, though, isn't it one of those things where like if you meet an asshole in the morning, an asshole in the afternoon, an asshole in the evening, then maybe you're the asshole. So maybe this is Warrior's fault.
Maybe
No.
Warrior's the problem.
No, Warrior has the best fight choreography in any show that I've seen
It is truly excellent.
ever.
What about Dragon Ball Z?
That's a joke.
What?
Let's be real here. Dragon Ball Z is all flash, very little substance when it comes to fight choreography.
You know how many muscles that boy has?
Too many.
Any of those boys. I don't even know what boy I'm talking about. There's
Like,
so many of them.
Some of those boys are like under 10 years of age and they got hella muscles. Stop it.
You know who had huge quad muscles? Harry Houdini. If there's pictures of Harry Houdini, I'm gonna look up Harry Houdini's quads. You guys are gonna get fucking. You're gonna have your mind blown by Harry Houdini's quads.
Eric, put Harry Houdini's quads in the
every single person that has watched Warrior on our recommendation has enjoyed it. I have not had a single person come to me on Twitter or Discord and say they did not enjoy Warrior that watched it.
Houdini quads dropping in the chat. Okay, Houdini quads in the chat. Click it. Reddit's gonna ask, "Are you sure you're old enough to view this?" And I promise you are.
I'm not suitable for work.
I promise you are.
It's 8:00.
Click on his quads. Look at that man. That's Houdini. That's how he escaped everything. He didn't do it by magic. He just did it because he had fucking muscles on his legs.
Yeah, just rip the locks off with your toes.
If Netflix wants Warrior to continue, they should put Harry Houdini in it.
Dale Rowe mentions that 1899 got canceled. That's all right. So I need to know: is that a show that I will be satisfied watching one season of and it'll wrap it up, or is it just fuck? Okay, then I'm not watching it.
Deeply no, like aggressively no.
Stupid. It's been sitting in my list, and the trailer keeps bugging me. Like, I want to watch you, but no.
Thank you, Eric. He's got Houdini's quads in the video cam.
Whoa!
Yeah. Can you zoom in on his quads? Don't zoom in on his crotch because he's got like a little weenie there. But I think it was just in the water. That was in the water. No, we're not like saying anything bad about his weenie. Okay, you're zooming on his weenie. Eric, what are you doing? You know where his
zooming on his wiener.
His legs, his thighs. We need his big haunches. Go down to his big haunches, but skip past his weenie.
Scroll to the left and then scroll to the right.
There it is. His haunches. To everyone listening to everyone listening on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and all of our other podcast services, we love you. Thank you so much for supporting us. You should come over to the YouTube at this timestamp and look at Harry Houdini's quads. They're crazy, right?
Yeah. He put in the work. Every day is leg day for Harry Houdini.
Yeah. Eric said I was laughing too much.
Oh no, he killed Marty with the power of blood.
Oh, I'm dying.
I did finish the Fall of House of Usher last night. Finally,
pretty good.
Finally binged it. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I didn't really like the first couple episodes, but once they really get rolling into the story of it, it picks up. Kind of had the same issue with what's the vampire one?
Oh, Midnight Mass.
Midnight Mass. Yeah, Midnight Mass takes a little bit to get going too.
Yeah, the first episode of that is pretty dry. Like it ends on a strong note of like WTF, but like after that, it's like smooth sailing. I felt kind of the opposite for House of Usher, where like I was into the beginning, and then the more they explained, kind of the mystique wore off a little. But I liked it overall.
Yeah, I guess I'm still the odd one out. That Bly Manor is my favorite, and not Hill House.
Midnight Mass is my favorite, kind of far.
Yeah, that's my favorite by far.
Hill House is a locked in number 2, and I put Bly and Usher at like a respectable third.
Yeah, mine is like Bly Manor, Midnight Mass, Usher. I mean, Bly Manor, Midnight Mass, Hill House, Usher. I feel like it
sounds like a music album.
Yeah.
Casey, you been watching anything?
I've been like dabbling in like a couple of like little action roguelikes here and there. Like the BlazBlue Entropy Effect game. It's really fun to just mess around in that game. Like just jump in, do a couple of runs, jump out. Same thing with 30XX. Like I really like I'm getting back into roguelikes because I'm finding the ones that absolutely nail the feel of combat. Like Entropy Effect doesn't really have great level design, but like its combat feels good enough. But 30XX, it's killing it in terms of like the randomly generated levels and like the feel of its like shooting platforming gameplay. Like I'm a real big fan of that. But I've been diving into a bunch of anime. I finally got to MF Ghost, which is the continuation of Initial D, which is that street racing anime that made a bunch of Eurobeat tracks famous. And like it's the meme of like stuff like drifting through corners, whatever.
I read that on the thing, and I thought that just said MF Doom, and you were just talking about I've been listening to MF Doom, and I was like, that's cool. Like weird, but okay.
No, yeah. So Initial D, like for some reason, like I'm not a big car guy or a street racing aficionado or anything like that, but Initial D makes me feel like I could be because like I just love that freaking show. Oh, we lost Marty for
Marty didn't want any more of that
quick
show.
second.
End of the year, and he voided himself.
I was mad that we weren't talking about MF Doom. No, I don't know what happened. Discord just froze. Sorry. Please continue.
Crap, I lost my train of thought a little bit. But yeah, so MF Ghost is like the far future. It still exists in the world of Initial D, but it's a weird concept where apparently in motor racing sports, gasoline cars have been banned. So like racing is done by like EVs and stuff, and only this one event is the one event that allows older gasoline model cars to race. But there's this rule that makes their engine power have to be balanced with their like wheel size or something like that. It's very technical, and like that's the theme here is that these shows like teach you a lot about racing, about cars in general, and like they make it interesting. At least to me, they make it interesting. And like the story of like what the actual characters are doing in their lives to get there to do that stuff is actually not that interesting. Like I really just care about like what's happening in the race and like how they're improving their ability to race and the rivalries associated with the race. Like it is like if you care at all about just a good competition series, like it does a great job of making you care about this competition series. And this one just happens to be about like regulated street style racing. So I like it's still airing right now. I don't think it's actually finished, but I burned through like the first 10 or so episodes that they have on Crunchyroll. So I'm gonna, as the new ones pop up, I'll just go back to like catch up on it. But because I was so high off of the MF Go stuff, I saw that there's another currently running racing anime series called Overtake. So I just jumped right into that, and that apparently is following what they call F4. I don't know if this is real, but like Formula One is like the real sharp cars, right? That are like real low to the ground. F4 is kind of like a rookie league. Like you can go from F4 to F3 to F2 to F1 as they explained. But F4 is kind of like for rich hobbyists. So like they'll own a team and they'll have racers or whatever, but people can like prove themselves and train up and then like become big and famous after the fact. But it, in and of itself is a big deal. That show is less about the actual racing and is actually telling a super interesting and compelling story about like people around the racing. And like the main character is like this photographer who like had this really traumatic event in his past and is like finding a new lease on life after being introduced to F4 racing. And he's drawn like very attached to a particular racing team and that driver's story and like what he's had to go through in order to get where he wants and his ambitions on like being a top class racer. And like it's just a really heartwarming like human interest story about these characters and like what they do in order to move forward after like trauma or tragedy. Like it's about people trying their best no matter what happens to them. And like it really like took me by surprise because I went into it for the racing and like I found that like that's not at all what I'm watching it for.
That's awesome.
Like Overtake is like it's really beautiful too. Like both
Apparently
shows, like
F4
MF Ghost looks really good too. Say again?
F4 is real according to chat.
F4 is real. Okay, cool.
We got a lot of F4 heads in the chat.
Yeah, you learn.
Yeah, I mean, it's dope.
Is that a newish show?
Yeah, that show was new. That's brand new as far as I know.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm looking. I haven't. I've been neglecting my animes lately. Like I did sort of the faux animes with Scavenger's Reign and Scott Pilgrim, and then I watched Pluto on Netflix, which I loved. But I haven't like jumped into whatever my next like big old thing is going to be. I'd probably end up over Christmas break. I'm probably going to rewatch Evangelion because I have a friend who's watching it for the first time, and I kind of want to rewatch it to go along that existential journey with them.
That's one show that I agree. Yeah, rewatch it as many times as possible.
Every time I rewatch it, I'm a new kid. Like when I first watched it as a kid, I'm like, oh my god, I'm Shinji. And now as an adult, I'm like, oh no, am I Misato? Am I just gonna like crush beers, smoke heaters, and hang out with my penguin pal? Is that what my future is gonna hold? In terms of stuff I've been watching, then just watching. Do you guys watch a lot of Christmas movies? Do you guys like? Every year, I love watching just hella Christmas movies.
Yeah, like it's not a thing that I do willingly, but sometimes I'm just around when Christmas movies happen.
Yeah, the only time I've ever been watching Christmas movies is like ex-girlfriend wants me to watch them.
Oh man, Nick, if we ever date, you're gonna watch so many Christmas movies.
Oh, no.
My boy, do I watch a lot of Christmas movies? Just rewatching all the goodies. Got your Christmas Vacation, your Christmas Story,
Silent Night,
you Grinch,
Die Hard.
Silent Night, like the new one with Joel Kinnaman, where he
Bad Santa. Yeah, Bad Santa.
Fucking Muppet Chris. I'm gonna tell you, Muppet Christmas Carol.
Oh, I am planning on watching the new Doctor Who special when that drops. I think that's on Christmas. So I guess that counts because those are Christmas specials too.
There's so much Doctor Who.
I'm excited.
They just keep putting that Who out there.
People love the Who.
They do. People love the Who. And then game wise, I don't know if I mentioned this exactly, but I got that 3DS thing, and I've been going back through. And I wanted an old Pokemon game because I didn't play any Pokemon from Gen 2 all the way to the Switch. And so I ended up starting a little file in LeafGreen, which is like the remake of the original Pokemon. So it's in the Kanto region, so it's all that familiar region. I'm having a great time. It's just very simple, but like a lot of nice quality of life changes you can run, which I never knew I wanted to run in a Pokemon game, but it feels very nice to just move quickly. But yeah, it's great. I like those little critters. There's not a whole lot for me to say about it.
They might be onto something.
It's easy comfort food things. They may be onto something, or they may be resting on their laurels, and then we're gonna get sick of them because they're being
the second one.
Yeah,
for sure.
They're not gonna do anything interesting.
My LG C1 made Pokemon Violet playable for me. I don't. Yeah.
Like, is it the LJC, the L Jesus Christ that like makes lame beggars walk? Like, what is this TV?
I don't know. This TV's a magical little wonderland of its own that makes games playable.
Turns Crime Boss Rocket City into GTA 6. You know what game we didn't talk about?
They should just make a game console.
You know what game we didn't talk about?
Rocket?
Wanted Dead.
Oh crap! Was that this year?
Yeah,
it was February.
Holy shit! I was convinced that came out last year.
Sponsor that we didn't get paid for. Super chat.
That's hilarious.
But yeah, Wanted Dead. Everyone should play Wanted Dead.
Yeah, guys, back in the old country, I wrote an article about how Wanted Dead makes you feel like. It made me feel like the most powerful I've ever felt in a video game. That game is janky as shit. It makes no logical sense in terms of its narrative. It holds you hostage in one of the worst karaoke mini games I've ever played. But I love Wanted Dead. Like, it is such a fun video game.
Yeah.
Like, its combat actually functions in a way that I think if other developers who had like a more focused approach to what they wanted to do in a video game, I think they should borrow some aspects of Wanted Dead's combat system, because like it is all about gratification in that game.
So also, is that game your top 3 of the year? You just forgot?
It's not. It's definitely not.
Like, there's way too much amazing stuff that came out this year. Like in your heart, it's probably a top 3 game. But
it's a game that absolutely requires mentioning. It would have been on this list. I was convinced it came out last year. Like, I would have brought it up myself. I thought it was
early. I think it was like February or March.
I was also surprised the Armored Core didn't make it on your list.
I haven't had enough time to finish it, and like I've been liking everything I've played, but like I'm in like the first third of that game still. Like I
Yeah.
just beat like that spider boss. Like it wouldn't be fair for me to like big it up when I know I haven't like played it fully.
Yeah.
That's one of those games like just the mission design is so archaic that I'm having a hard time loving it.
Yeah, I can see that.
Came out February 14th. KC, you know what that means? February 14th.
Came out
HBD.
on Valentine's Day.
HBD Wanted Dead.
Mm.
Can we pencil you in for a stream next
Look,
year?
if you guys will let me make a new video on Wanted Dead, I will do it.
Do it. Do it on bite size.
I will do it.
Okay.
No
Gold.
cops. There's no
Approved.
cops.
Just give me more reason to talk about Wanted Dead,
There's
please.
no Wanted Dead cops. Wanted
The,
Dead.
the devs will love you for it.
HBD Wanted Dead. Before we wrap up for the evening, a couple last donos.
the
Beast
year.
March. Oh my, the evening year. $2 dono. Casey, the statue is in New York. Ellis Island is shared.
Get wrecked.
Liberty.
Who shares it? Did New York tell you that it's shared? Because that sounds like something New York would say.
Giuliani, a big Eric Adams. No one trusts anything that man says.
Guess what else is shared that New Jersey didn't ask for? The freaking Giant Stadium, which is also in New Jersey.
Meadowlands.
That's just New York trying to annex New Jersey.
All the time they do this bullshit.
I feel like everywhere's got a place they have beef with because, like, Nick has Kansas. Everyone's
there is
like,
no beef with Kansas. Kansas doesn't exist. It's just
what are you talking about? No place like home.
Does it exist?
Dorothy was in
Dorothy got wiped off the map.
Toto, we're not in Missouri anymore.
She was running towards Missouri.
There's no Stephen King book called Kansas. There's a Stephen King book called Misery, though. Think about that.
Mhm.
Dr. Zebra, $1.99.
Yeah, but there's a movie called 3 Billboards in Missouri. Beat that.
Outside of Ebbing, Missouri. I can't.
I don't even know where the fuck Ebbing, Missouri is.
It's where those billboards. A girl got murdered. Dr. Zebra, $1.99 dono. Thank you so much. Casey, you were so right about the Squid Game show. It's bad. It's bad, and we should feel bad for talking about it.
Bad, but you can't turn away from it bad.
Really well
Like,
produced.
it's bad for the reasons you think it's bad, but it's good for reasons that you didn't expect, which is humanity. They're the good guys. Like, and we knew this. Like, corporations are the bad guys, right? So that's who you root against.
No, hackers are the bad guys.
Oh yeah, that too.
That's what the Matrix taught me. Hackers are
hackers-
the bad guys.
Are hackers humans?
Whoa. I think I'm robo tripping now. The NyQuil and DayQuil just kicked in, and I'm seeing through time. Simple Simon with a $2 dono. Nick, why do we not have a D's nuts emoji yet? Don't give him ideas, Simple Simon. What are you doing?
New year, new D's.
You're a monster. And Amy, a $2 donation. So glad I got to see the mighty Houdini quads live. People are going to ask. There's the Kennedy assassination. There's landing on the moon, and then there's where were you when we found out about the Houdini quads? And we were here. We were here on the final Firelink of 2023. It's been a great year, guys. It's been an exceptional year. It's been fun to make pods and make vids and make streams and make goofs with you guys. And I'm genuinely thrilled to first. I'm thrilled to take a little time off. And not see you guys, and then I'm thrilled to be coming back and hitting full force in 2024 with you and the rest of the team. I cannot wait. I can't wait for everyone out there to see what we have planned. Real cool shit.
Yeah, I'm obviously super grateful the year turned out the way it did, because very easily could have gone a different way, and the whole team following me out the door. Yeah, something I'll never forget in my entire life. The fact like it's been only 6 weeks since that happened is still fucking insane to me.
Surreal.
Like
Yeah.
I can't it feels like we've been here a lot longer, but I mean, like, yeah, same team, same people, same good content we were doing before, just a whole new group of people following along with us finally. And but yeah, like I just yeah, I mean, to the community that is with us and listening to this podcast, if you're not listening to it, like, this isn't possible without you. And like, seeing so many names that I recognize in the chat from Escapist over here has been incredibly heartwarming, and something like this that would usually stress the fuck out of anybody else. It was obviously stressful for me, but I've been more excited than stressed for the last 6 weeks. It's like a good stress. It's stress that, like, hey, we're building our future here, and doing something really cool with people I care about, and when I have it any other way.
Hell yeah. Yeah, and thrilled that we got to cap off the year with bringing Casey and Jesse on and having such an amazing team of freelancers and sort of like such a deep bullpen, and really excited to be able to really like flex that in the new year, like Harry Houdini flexed his in his old time swimsuit. Yeah. Well, then that about
Any final thoughts from you, KC? Don't want to leave you out.
Well, I'm just happy to be here, guys. Thank you so much for all your support. We definitely needed it, and we are so happy to have it.
Yeah, I mean, it's not. When we say we couldn't do it without you, that's not like we're reading from a call sheet. It's like we literally just couldn't have done this. Like there is a world where we launched this, and there's just a tumbleweed that went by.
We just fell
and like
flat
the
on our
janitor
face.
in the corner was like mopping up balloons, and we're like, oh no, like being the dude who gets blown out during an election on election night. But yeah, the fact that so many familiar faces, so many new faces are here, watching us, reading us, listening to us, and just generally supporting us means the world. And we're gonna do right by you in 2024 and give you a lot of cool shit, that stuff you are expecting and stuff you are most certainly not expecting.
And
it's gonna be fun.
Carrying over the same community vibe that we built at Escapist 2 has been immensely helpful, because boy, 30,000 people join your Discord, you're like, oh, this is gonna be a shitstorm. And I think like Eric in the chat would probably tell you, like, we've hardly had to ban anybody or do really any moderation. And so the community, like, you are leading the way on that. Like, super appreciative you bought into our vision on building a space that obviously we're not the Escapists anymore, but we still treat Second Wind as the same motto. Like, this is a place you can escape to talk about your hobbies and have a good time and laugh and not be mad all the time. Twitter ID to get off it, but in general, like, just this is the job I wake up to every morning. I'm like, I'm never worried about the comment sections. I'm always excited to read them and interact with people. So
Hell yeah.
Community Expo in 2024. That's the plan.
Jesus.
I'm saying it because we want the funding for it, and we were gonna do a 5-year thing for Escapists in 2024. That was in the plans. Obviously, that's not gonna happen. So now we gotta do Community Expo launch party.
Invite everyone to your house. You got that basement or that sub basement or that room you won't tell us about.
That's just a little thing under my stairs I like to go into every once in a while.
Yeah, Harry Potter cubby.
Yeah, we all have sad nooks.
That's where I go when I just want to get away from everything for a minute.
Yeah, there you go. Rock yourself to sleep.
I just have to make sure my roommate lets me out, or I'll die in there.
I got dark fast.
But yeah, seriously, thank you all so much for watching. Thank you all so much for listening. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Casey. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Haley, our incredible moderation team. Couldn't do any of this without you. So for everyone here at Second Wind, thank you so much for watching. Tomorrow we'll be back with Yahtzee Tries. At the normal time, 3 p.m. Central. Obviously, no podcast tomorrow night because Nick will be on MinMax tomorrow night. 7
you guys gotta come. Yeah, y'all gotta come.
It's our community versus MinMax, so you need to show up and represent and kick their ass.
Yeah,
mostly because I already talk shit on Twitter, so now I have to back it up.
Oh, damn it!
But I'm fevered, Nick. Oh no. And then Thursday evening, assuming I'm not dead, I think our last stream of the year will be Casey and I doing part 2 of Devil May Cry.
Yeah.
If I'm not feeling good that day, I'm probably not going to do it.
We were talking about.
It's okay.
We were talking about maybe doing a community stream on Friday. Maybe that should be Dokapon to end out the year.
What if Marty dies though?
Well, he'll go out on Dokapon. I think that's worth it.
Is it? Because I'm gonna be honest, I'm not sure it is. But yeah, thank you all so much for the support as always. So for everyone here at Second Wind, thank you. This was Firelink episode number 3. Everyone have a wonderful rest of your evenings, and we will see you all later.
And we are on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, before it comes YouTube Music, so go subscribe on there. I think we're already in the top 44 on Leisure, so you got us under the top 50 already.
Thank you guys so much.
Leisure.
Bye.
Bye.